Welcome to part 12.2 of Nuclear Dragon. If you encounter any issues or have feedback, please let me know in the comments rather than just disliking the video. Your input helps me improve, and I'm here to make sure you have the best experience possible. Enjoy the content.
Chapter 326. In the courtyard that had been dilapidated by the battle, there were more than 30 corpses of devil piled up. A little girl was standing next to the corpse, looking around, seeming to be choosing something. For a long time, she pointed to a devil with a cow head and said to the man, "I want this." "Okay." The man turned his head to look at Thunder, but when he heard the little girl's words, he turned his head back, and after agreeing, he tore the hind legs of the bull devil pointed by the girl. After cleaning the fur, he passed it over. Then the little girl chewed vigorously. Lei Dong frowned while watching. Are these guys really human? Is it too wild to look like devouring the devil? Devil's meat. If no special refining and processing is carried out to ordinary people, it should be highly toxic. Are they okay if they eat like this? Are they really demon hunters like me? Lei Dong was even more suspicious, and he stood not far away and stared at the man and the little girl. "Why are you staring at me like this?" The man on the opposite side finally spoke, and his attitude didn't seem very friendly. "I can tell you, these delicacies, I won't give you a dime. You died for me this heart." Huh. When the little girl heard the man's words, she also cast her gaze on Thunder. Her gaze was wary. She took a short step later, and then hid the meat behind her back. It seems to use his eyes to say, "I will not give it to you." Lei Dong was slightly silent. "I didn't come to find you guys for meat. I just came to convey your majesty's will, and your majesty seems to want to meet Mr. Shillong, who claims to be a god." "Your majesty?" Shillong was taken aback. "In this world where everyone is in danger and possesses cannibals, there is actually an emperor? Isn't this emperor also a devil?" Shillong said instinctively. "You don't talk nonsense." Lei Dong didn't seem to have emotional fluctuations, with a little ups and downs. "Your Majesty is a real human being. He is the object of protection and allegiance to all of us. The entire royal family has always been the main force against the devil. They have established a hunting organization, brings hope and future to mankind. You don't even understand their greatness." "Don't get excited, young man. Do whatever you say," Shillong said indifferently. "But you have to put aside what you said. I still have something to do." After Shillong finished speaking, he began to make his own magic stick. After another group of people flicked, he waved his hand, taking Thunder and Hu Shaodai into the air and flew away from the city. Being carried by the thunder flying in the air, his eyes flickered when he looked at Zero. This man has many abilities. Resurrection, Feition, are all very good abilities. If there are more demon hunters who have reached awakening, it would be great if we also have this ability. Lei Dong was a little surprised. Until flying to the outskirts, Shillong put everyone down before continuing the previous topic. "You said your majesty wants to invite me?" "Yes, you have a very strong power, and your awakening ability is very good. After hearing about your actions and abilities, your majesty wants to see you." Lei Dong nodded. Then he said, "Although I am still not sure whether you are a human or a devil, your act of slaughtering the devil is undoubtedly a good act. Calling yourself A and making people believe in you, although it feels a bit strange, I think you should be a good guy now. At least I can talk. And human beings and your majesty also need your power." "Huh." Shillong smiled noncommittal. "I won't work for anyone, and no one is worthy of me. Hope you can figure this out." Lei Dong was silent. "I see. After all, you are not a demon hunter organized and cultivated. What I said before was indeed a bit abrupt. With your strength, pride is inevitable." Lei Dong understood Shillong's words. "It's good to understand." Shillong nodded. He stretched out his finger, pointed to the northeast and said, "Does your emperor live in the city 100 kilometers away from that direction?" "Yes." It is not surprising that Lei Dong knew the location of the imperial city. In this world, village, and small town level, human beings dare not walk around indiscriminately and have very little knowledge of the world. But in a city of 10,000 people, humans basically know that there is an emperor in this world and an imperial capital. The Demon Hunter organization belongs to His Majesty the Emperor, fighting against the demons. Caravans are often sent to the demon hunters to conduct trade transactions between cities. Therefore, the humans in the city are no strangers to the location of the imperial city. What's more, is it a strong like Shillong who can squash everywhere? There. I've seen it before. I can't even see a devil. There are clearly more than 1 million people. It's really strange. Originally, I planned to eat all the demons and clean up the ordinary city again before going back. The Emperor City is the residence of His Majesty the Emperor. It is also the residence of all our demon hunters. Naturally, The devil dare not haunt the imperial city. Lei Dong's mouth curled up slightly. For this, it seems to be quite proud. That's still very strange. The humans in this world should be completely inadequate to fight the devil. Shillong said to himself. Although the devil is powerful, but you don't know our demon hunter organization, and there are many masters in our organization. There are more than 50 powerhouses like you at the awakening level. Lei Dong explained. Awakening level? What do you mean? Don't you understand? Lei Dong frowned, immediately revealed the color of a sudden. That's right, this is the organization's division of strength, and it is normal if you don't understand it. Although I don't know if you are a human being, you should also know. Where is our source of power beyond mortals? Devil's meat, right? Shillong replied. The eyes under the sunglasses looked at thunderous eyes, and then at Hu Xiaodai. The body structure of these two people is a little different from ordinary human beings. Like a person but not a person, like a demon but not a demon. Belongs to half man and half devil. Shillong discovered it when he first gave Tiger Fluttershy meat. The little girl who was an ordinary person before had eaten the meat of Warcraft, and her body began to change slightly. After eating the first piece of real devil meat and dying once, the changes inside the body are more thorough. That's right. Lei Dong nodded. All demon hunters are humans who have eaten special devil meat. Having said that, he also glanced at Hu Xiaodai and Shillong. You too. You actually ate it raw just now. You know, the devil's meat contains highly poisonous, and you too will be fine. To be honest, I think you are the devil even more than humans. Two strange demons. It's not the devil, the little girl who had been silent said. I am not a devil, I am a human being. Big Brother is not a devil, but a dragon god, a dragon who saves mankind. Lei Dong looked at the serious little girl and nodded after a moment of silence. Okay, it's a human being, it's a dragon god. He didn't want to be too serious with the little girl. Yeah. The little girl obviously couldn't see the meaning of thunder. She nodded in satisfaction, and then stopped making a sound. Lei Dong turned his head and looked at Shillong and said, after people eat the devil's meat, we will gain power close to the devil, which is far superior to humans. This is an ordinary witcher. Strictly speaking, it is inhuman. To go further to this extent, to gain more power from the devil and possess the special ability of mutation, we call it the awakened. The awakened person has far more power than ordinary witchers and demons. Like mine. After Lei Dong finished speaking, he suddenly drew the knife from his waist. Songlong groaned softly. Under the cold night sky, the blue thunder light exploded. With the swing of the blade, it suddenly slashed to the big tree on one side. La la la, the whole tree flickered with thunder. Part 2. Crackling after a series of explosions, the whole tree exploded with a bang. This is my awakening ability, thunder and lightning, far more than killing the enemy. Lei Dong introduced. Oh, understood. Shillong nodded. So you think my flying ability is awakening ability? Isn't it? Lei Dong asked. I know you are a multi-powered awakener. I also heard that you have the ability to resurrect the dead. Of course, I don't believe it. There must be other secrets that I don't know. What you said makes a lot of sense. Shillong did not refute the other party, but asked instead, are the awakeners you talked about all of your strength? No, I am a ghost killer, and among the awakened, the strength is also considered to be the best. Really? Shillong looked at Lei Dong and said suddenly, I feel that your strength does not seem to be strong. You. Lei Dong's hand holding Tang Dao shook slightly. He grew up so old, at the age of 25, became a ghost killer, and was praised as a genius since he was a child. It is the third strongest among tens of thousands of demon hunters. In other words, it is the third strongest among all mankind. When has it been said that it is weak? Don't be angry. I am a person who speaks more straightforwardly, but I always tell the truth. Shillong said seriously. Forget it. Lei Dong sighed. What are you doing with this guy? Is there a problem with the brain? I just came over and brought him to your majesty. Let's go. Let's go back to the imperial city now. Lei Dong said, and wanted to leave. It's too slow. I'll take you to fly. Shillong finished speaking, dragging two humans again. With a swish, it turned into streamer and rushed towards the imperial city. Lei Dong watched the mountains and rivers below keep changing. There was silence in my ears, and there was no wind around me. The awe-inspiring color in his eyes is even stronger. This guy who claims to be is really strong. Fast and fast. Soon Shillong led Lei Dong and Hu Xiaodai into the top of the imperial city, above one of the most magnificent buildings. The house here is the most beautiful. It should be the place where your emperor lives? Yes. Lei Dong nodded. Yeah. Shillong then lowered down. When he landed, the 9 ghost killers who had been around opened their eyes at the same time, looking at Lei Dong, Shillong, and Hu Xiaodai. You are much faster than I expected, Mr. Lei Dong. The strong man who ranked number 1 was smiling. Oh, the way you appeared on the stage really surprised me. I had long known that Mr. Shillong could take people to fly together. I didn't expect the speed to be so fast. What an enviable ability. The glamorous woman with the 8 character engraved on the back exclaimed, "Next time you have a chance, can you take me one? My sister hasn't flown since growing up." After speaking, he winked at Shillong again. "Don't make a fuss, stinky woman. Mr. Silem is a guest of your majesty. He is here to see your majesty, not to show you," said a man with a scar on his face and a slightly weaker figure than the first. "There is a number 2 engraved on the clothes behind this man." "Aw, you really can't speak at all. It's annoying," the woman complained. Seeing such a group of energetic guys, Silem just smiled silently. It's rare that these guys live in a world full of demons, so they can be so optimistic and confident. "Mr. Silem, just ignore them. I will take you to see your majesty," Lei Dong said blankly. "Good." Shillong just nodded. He followed Lei Dong, and other ghost killers also followed him, obviously wanting to go in together, but just walked to the door. The door was opened, and the young emperor stood at the door, looking at the people and saying, "You all stay outside. I want to talk to Mr. Silem alone." As soon as these words came out, these ghost killers were a little surprised. The strong man number 1 frowned and said, "No, your majesty's body, how can you meet with a strange demon hunter alone? Your majesty, please don't be joking. How can you meet alone with someone from an unknown source, in case something happens? What can we do?" Number 8 woman also said. Others also discouraged. But the young emperor just smiled. "Mr. Silem is a good man who hunted countless demons. Don't use your unpredictable hearts to measure such great people. Although a little quirky, well, I just like to call myself a god." His Majesty, okay. Needless to say, this is the Emperor's order. Just wait here. Seeing what these ghost killers wanted to say, the Emperor frowned and stopped. "Yes, please, Mr. Silem." The young Emperor made a please gesture very politely. Shillong was also welcome and walked in directly. Hu Shaodai on one side also wanted to follow up, but he was stopped by the Emperor, and he showed a kind smile. "Little girl, this is a separate meeting between me and Mr. Shillong. Can you wait outside for a while?" Hu Shaodai remained silent, but shook his head. "Good boy, be obedient." "No, I want to follow Big Brother Shillong." The young Emperor raised an eyebrow and said again, "Child, do you want to eat good things? Beef, chicken, fish, bear meat, tiger meat, and all kinds of delicious dim sums. May I ask the brother outside to take you to eat?" Hu Shaodai was stunned, then asked, "Which? Or the devil's meat is better?" The Emperor was taken aback, and then replied, "Of course it's better here. This is the best meat in the world." I. Hu Shaodai hesitated. She looked at the Emperor and then at Shillong, undecided. "Eat if you want." Shillong's voice came. Hu Shaodai replied in a low voice. Immediately, the Emperor asked Lei Dong to take the little girl to the kitchen to eat, and Silem followed the Emperor into the spacious room, with many compartments inside, turning around and turning to a room like a study. The Emperor bowed to an old general's armor. "Old ancestor, your guest has been brought here." Oh. A strange whine sounded in the room. Because of the candlelight, the bright room suddenly became black as ink. The atmosphere in the whole room became strange. An invisible breath pressed Shillong, until it completely covered Shillong's body. A long time, Silem glanced at him and still knelt down, but facing the Emperor, he glanced at the old armor that seemed to be resurrected, scratched his head and said, "You? What are you looking for? Are you okay? Are you okay under the pressure of your ancestors?" The young Emperor seemed a little surprised. "Coercion? No feeling. Ha 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 ha." The armor suddenly laughed, and the old voice echoed, "You really got rid of the limit of ordinary devil. Very good. Very good. After waiting for so many years, finally there is a younger generation who makes me happy," said the old voice. Question mark. Shillong frowned. "What is the limit of ordinary devil? Which onion are you? Mr. Silem, don't you understand yet? The one in front of you is the origin of all demons. Devil King, round 10, the legendary supreme devil." "The Devil King?" Shillong said to himself. "Yes." The Emperor nodded, looking respectfully at the worn-out armor. "It is also my ancestor, the great devil who maintains this world order." Tisk. Shillong shook his tongue. "I just said that a rookie like Lei Dong can rank in the top among humans. How can this world still have room for human existence? After all, any big devil is better than him. It turns out that humans have long been under the control of your demons. They are like beasts, kept in captivity by you ignorantly, and they still dream about fighting the devil all the time. It's really sad." "This is already my kindness," the old voice continued. "If it were not for my restraint, other demons would have swallowed up mankind. Young devils, don't look too one-sided when you look at the problem." "Hey wait, you guy actually calls me a young devil?" Silem waved his hand. "My friend, Guaging this year? Ha ha ha." You are really an interesting devil. You will still struggle with this question. Part 3. I am already more than 1,000,000 years old this year. It shouldn't be an exaggeration to call you a young devil, right? Said the voice. Thousands of years. That's really old enough. It is much older than me, but calling me the devil, I don't recognize it. After all, I have nothing to do with the devil. You don't mess around. Not the devil? Ha. The old voice smiled. Do you want to say you are human? Or half human and half ghost? In fact, it doesn't matter. To be honest, I am dead. It can be seen. After all, you are gone. Your spirit is attached to the armor. Yeah, I have been lingering until today, just to find a heir. I hope it is as good as me. It is a great existence that has broken the shackles of the devil. Only this kind of life is worthy of my inheritance. Child, it is wrong for you to be partial to human beings. Compared with the devil, humans are the biggest cancer in the world. You should have seen the tenacity of humans, right? They eat everything. Everything will be destroyed and used. If no creatures stand up to stop them, have you ever wondered what the world will become? They will become the overlords of this world and eat all species to extinction. Young child, don't you know, in ancient times, there was no devil in this world. The mankind at that time was the overlord of the world. However, by chance, Round 10, became the first devil. When I found that I could only feed on humans, I felt the mission entrusted to me by the world. Weaken mankind and maintain the order of everything. This is the mission the world has given us to the devil. Child, as the second existence to break the shackles, you are my successor. Bring it on. Put on my armor. You will get my power. The old voice Rory talked a lot of things, and finally, the worn armor flew up from the wooden support, disintegrated in midair, flew towards Shillong, and kept chanting while flying, "Come on, accept everything from me. Maintain the world." Are you talking about solo crosstalk? Xylem stretched out a hand, and the huge repulsive force broke out. Boom. Everything in the room was blown away. The young emperor screamed and slammed against the wooden wall behind him. The wooden wall that should have been unable to withstand this kind of power, but weirdly withstood this power, only slightly swayed. The emperor was squeezed hard against the wooden wall, and the armor exuded a dark purple light, neutralizing the repulsion that hit it. Child, why do you reject this sacred mission? The old voice became a little low. Old thing, is it because you live too long and become stupid? Or do you think other people are as stupid as you? Give me strength? It's ridiculous. I never believed that there is a free lunch in this world. Compared to your lies, I believe that you want to take my body, right? Soren smiled. Taking the body? The old voice seemed surprised. Why do you have this idea? Have you ever encountered other demons with this ability? Never encountered wuxiaworld.online, but I have seen many starting points. It's all written above. Rebirth. Do you understand? Soren said. Starting point? What is that thing? A home called Starting Point? The old voice looked particularly gloomy. These humans. It's really hateful. I kindly keep them alive, don't make good rations, and do all the bells and whistles. It's useless to write something crazy. Do you even believe in such things? Be prepared. It's better to believe them. The most important thing is that I don't need your weak power. Xylem shrugged helplessly. Young Junior, you make me a little angry, the old voice said. The armor he possessed was even brighter with a dark purple light, and the energy impact against the repulsive force gradually pressed towards Shillong. Chapter 327. While the confrontation between the two sides became more intense, the emperor who was suppressed to death wailed miserably, "My ancestor! Help! Help! Damn!" Luan sure seemed a little anxious, a little frustrated. Why? Why do you resist? Accept my strength. Isn't it good to maintain this world? Poor fellow, how can the sun in the sky care about the power of fireflies? Xylem said while talking. Dragon scales appeared on the cheeks, and the clothing behind them burst open with a bump, and a pair of dragon wings grew from behind. The repulsive force against the opponent instantly seemed to be increased firepower, and the opponent began to oppose the opponent's suppression. You dare to refuse me? Reject my power. You will definitely regret it. I want you to know how terrible my power is. The voice of Luan Shur was full of resentment. The armor floating in the air flashed like a ghost, and appeared beside the young emperor, Kakaka. The armor split at once, and then put it on the emperor one by one until it was completely put on. The emperor's appearance changed, his face became tougher, he looked older, and the pupils of his eyes became purple and black. Young devil, regret to reject the gift of the first devil. The emperor's voice also changed, becoming a middle-aged voice leaning toward the wheel tin. With a wave of his armored arm, a huge energy slammed into Shillong. Rumble. The power of terror between the two finally exploded. The few emperor palaces the size of a football field completely burst, pieces of wood flying across the sky. The 9 ghost killers who had been guarding the outside were bombarded by the terrible aftermath for hundreds of meters before they could react. He slammed into a nearby house. Cough, cough, cough. The woman engraved with the number 8 slapped the broken wood on her body with her arm and looked at the emperor's palace that had disappeared in a daze. Just now. What happened? Your Majesty. Your Majesty is in danger. That guy named Shillong actually dared to attack Your Majesty. Unforgivable. I want to kill him. In a wooden house not far from number 8, ghost number 2 with a scar on his face, the killer also saw the scene before him. He thought of a lot of things instantly. Finally, an angry roar was issued, and the whole person turned into a gust of wind and charged into the smoke, but the next moment, bump. A violent collision. This ghost killer flew back to his original position at a faster speed than before. The whole body was blasted into the ground fiercely. This. Number 8 was dumbfounded, and the other ghost killers rushed over and stopped not far away. I saw a booming roar in the distance. Soon the dust and mist dissipated, but it was still difficult for number 8 to see what was being sent inside, but the banging sound kept ringing. He looked ugly, and after a wild roar, he rushed in the direction of the sound again. As soon as he approached, he heard a roar. Get out of the way! Waste! There was another loud noise from Pong. Number 2 flew upside down again, roaring a tunnel hundreds of meters in the ground. The other ghost killers turned their heads and looked. This time, number 2 was not as lucky as the first time. His entire chest was crushed. The breastbone is absolutely completely shattered. The back is a big bump. At this time, there has been a lot of air out, but less air. How could it be? Feng Lin unexpectedly. Unexpectedly, the other ghost killers were stunned by this scene. The organization ranked second, and Feng Lin, whose strength was infinitely close to that of the big devil, died so unclearly. There is no more fear in the hearts of all ghost killers. Doubts about the previous life. Facing the situation in front of me, there is a sense of unreality. Inside, it should be 2 people fighting, but why? As the strongest human ghost killer, you can't even see it clearly? Can't you get close? Are we too weak? Or is the opponent too strong? Pong, pong. There were 2 loud noises, and the roar finally stopped, revealing 2 figures in battle. A tall devil with a pair of wings and a pair of wings on his back. A silhouette of a slightly shorter figure wrapped in purple and black, covered in worn-out general armor. The 2 faced each other, holding each other with their hands and wrestling in the middle. The ground was under the strength of the 2 people, and a large area was cracked with a bang. The black-scaled devil should be Shillong Soderbergh, who just invited in. But who is that armored figure? Why have you never seen it before? A ghost killer who was closer, seeing the appearance of the 2, couldn't help asking. It should be Your Majesty. He should be like us, an awakened ghost killer. This should be his ability. Unexpectedly, His Majesty was so strong. Fortunately, we still want to protect Your Majesty. It is really ridiculous. Number 1 analyzed. The corner of his mouth couldn't help showing a wry smile. But the Emperor can have such strength. Number 1 is still happy for the other party from the bottom of his heart. Damn Shillong Soderbergh. Your Majesty kindly received him. How dare to attack Your Majesty? Die to me. Ghost killer number 4 is a strong man with a huge saber. After seeing this stalemate, he roared and slashed to Ciro's head. Orbit. A huge force slashed on the opponent's neck, and the knife and neck made a loud noise. Number 4 felt like he had cut on a piece of 100 refined steel, and the strong counter-shock made him almost unable to hold the knife. The whole body was shocked, the tiger's mouth on his palm split open, and the blood stained his palm. Number 4 screamed in pain, backed back again and again, and looked at the 2 monsters who were still wrestling with nothing in the middle with horrified eyes. Other ghost killers also saw the tragic appearance of number 4, and their hearts were even more shocked. How? It might be like this. The gap is too big. Number 4 looked at his hands and began to doubt life. Hello. After being chopped, Shillong turned his head and looked at ghost killer number 4 with some helplessness. You guy, what did you do with me? You devil. Oppose Your Majesty. Kill Feng Lin again and ask me why I cut you? Number 4 was anxious. Feng Lin? Shillong glanced at the dead number 2 in the distance and said in doubt, is that the one who doesn't open his eyes? That's right. It's him. You devil. You dare to kill him. I can't spare you. Number 4 yelled, and again slashed Shillong's forehead. In the end, he was knocked to the ground. While wrestling with the armor, Shillong looked helplessly at number 4 and said, are you blind? That guy was obviously killed by the guy opposite me. That guy named Feng Lin, who didn't open his eyes, came here for the first time, and I kindly shot him off. He didn't appreciate him, and he ran to die again. This time he was beaten to death by the opposite person. Don't you blame him for blaming me? I was really wronged enough. You nonsense. How could your majesty hurt us? Number 4 didn't believe Shillong's words at all. The guy opposite me is not your little emperor now. He said he was the world's first devil. Well, he should have taken your emperor's body now. When Synopsis said this, he turned his head to face the other side and said, I remember your name is Round 10? Right. Damn, Junior. Luanshi's face was slightly distorted. It felt Shillong's carelessness, and it seemed that there was no official battle. This makes it feel despised. The fire of anger in the heart is almost burning through its sanity. As the original devil, has it ever been treated like this? Damn, Junior. Don't be too smug. I will let you understand. The power of the Ghost King at first. I want you to regret rejecting my power. Luanshi roared. Look carefully. My true power. Following the roar of Lunshi, the armor worn on the middle-aged emperor actually began to completely merge with his, like a whole. What followed was its power surge. Part 2. Round 10 used both hands to directly break the deadlock between the two sides, lifted both hands forcefully, and then slammed down. Boom. Vibration occurred within a few kilometers of the entire radius. The center was tens of meters away, and it was directly smashed into a huge pothole. The nearest number 4 was directly lifted by a terrible impact 100 meters. At the same time, Hu Xiaodai, who was taken by thunder to eat, just ate a few mouthfuls of delicious beef, and the whole house was destroyed by the shock wave. The ordinary people inside were blown away, dead, wounded, and fleeing. During this shock, Lei Dong guarded Hu Xiaodai until after the shock. He glanced at the emperor's palace that was at war in the distance, and ignored Hu Xiaodai. He flashed and rushed over. When he came to the battlefield, he saw several ghost killers standing in the distance with demented faces, looking at the soot. Wait for him to observe the dust and fog. Boom. There was another loud noise. The terrible shock came again, almost overturning him. What is going on? Everyone. Resisting the impact of the strong wind, thunder roared loudly. There are 2 monsters fighting there, a ghost killer shouted. Just now, the person they considered to be the emperor claimed to be the first Ghost King. At 10 o'clock, all ghost killers understood. Perhaps Shillong was right. This is no longer their emperor. Also the Feng Lin killed by this monster. Damn, I'm not playing with you. In the middle of the shock wave, an angry voice came out. With a terrible roar that made everyone's soul tremble, a huge black figure appeared from the dust and fog. It was a monster that had never been seen before. Its huge body, it broke the limit of everyone's imagination. All the buildings, all the monsters that have been encountered before, are like ants in front of them. The dark body stands on the ground. Lei Dong found sadly that as humans, they were much smaller than the claws of the opponent's forelimbs. This is a terrifying monster with a height of at least 200 to 300 meters and a body length of 500 to 600 meters. Above the pitch-black scale armor, the flowing golden light is so dazzling. The monster stands quietly, but the air current that it exhales is a terrible storm for the humans on the ground. Lei Dong had to keep his arms in front of him to withstand the storm. With a radius of more than 10 kilometers, the lively night market life that should have been peaceful was instantly broken. All the humans who saw the monster uttered a terrified scream, turned and ran. The whole city began to riot, and there were countless trampling injuries. But soon, a terrible invisible breath swept across, and everyone felt a breath, eyes, and fainted. This is the terrible breath that the monster accidentally leaked. The so-called ghost killers, under this breath, felt cold and stiff in their hands and feet. Damn, obviously just a junior. How could you have this kind of power? How could it be? An incredible roar sounded under the monster. It is the original king of the devil, Round 10. At this time, his expression was complicated and difficult to understand, with envy, jealousy, and hatred. This power, obviously only it deserves to be owned. Obviously I am the strongest devil. How could God not give me this power? Instead, he gave you this junior. I don't accept it. I don't accept it. This body, obviously it should be mine. It's mine. He screamed wildly and utterly. Idiot. The huge monster opened its mouth. The sound was like the thunder in the sky, and it was about to pierce people's eardrums. Don't compare the great dragon with a low-level guy like you, understand? Devil? What a ridiculous thing. This kind of thing is only worthy of my food, and you are no exception, the original king of the devil, Round 10. Boom. As the monster's voice fell, a terrifying sonic boom sounded. Then the whole space began to roar, accompanied by a dozen horror hurricanes. All the ghost killers hundreds of meters away were instantly swept into the sky tens of meters. Originally, with their strength, they could naturally stabilize their figures and then land naturally, but they were impacted by the terrifying aura of the monsters. Then Lei Dong waited for the hunter to turn his stiff head, looking hard in the direction of the storm, where he was originally the Ghost King, Wancher. There is already occupied by a huge long tail. But where it was perpendicular to the tail, a straight road appeared. This road was originally not wuxia-world.online, but it appeared after the tail appeared. On the path of this road, all houses were just destroyed. The entire road extends straight out, and the length is incalculable. The ghost killers understand that this must be caused by the dragon attack in front of you. That so-called first ghost king should have been killed by the monster in front of him. All ghost killers couldn't help but think. Woo 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 woo, a horrible whine came from far away. The black fog that originally surrounded the city, and because of the destruction of the city, poured into the city instantly toward the direction of the whine. 100 kilometers away, where black mist was constantly surging, a monster larger than Shillong was born. Chapter 328. This monster seemed to be composed entirely of black fog. It was born after completely imitating Shillong's appearance, but without the magical golden streamer. Its size is extremely terrifying, and its height is more than 1 kilometer. Perhaps it was because the black fog around was completely sucked away, and this monster was made up of black fog in the dark night. Ghost slayers actually saw it very clearly. Damn it, I really don't know anything about this world. All the ghost killers were lost in confusion. Is the life I experienced before is all fake? How can there be such horrible two monsters in this world? This is also the devil? The devil is so strong. How did we humans survive? What a miracle. Ha ha ha. Far away, the huge monster of the kilometer level gave out a harsh laugh. My king of the devil, round 10. The greatest. The strongest devil. You disobedient bug. Try my great. Turn 10. Transformed into a black dragon, controlled his body, step by step towards Shillong in the city. With each step, the earth groaned overwhelmedly. The picture is a counterfeit. What else can you do besides scaring the ants? Shillong said with disdain after seeing the monster. The body slowly rose into the air, and then slowly floated above the head of the kilometer-high black mist monster. Finally crashed. This is like a super meteorite falling from the sky. Simply at the speed of natural landing, it directly crushed the kilometer-level monster. The kilometer monster obviously looks terrifying, but it looks like it is made of loose clay, and it collapses when it comes down naturally in Shillong. The huge monster split into pieces and burst into pieces. When the little monster, Nazalon, fell to the ground, a more terrifying explosion broke out across the earth. The ghost killers, tens of kilometers away, felt that the ground was shaking violently. Looking up, huge cracks spread from under the little monster, Shillong. Extend straight to them. This monster. How heavy is it? How scary. Outside of the city, after Shillong sat down on the counterfeit of the incarnation of Lunchi, he lifted the mortal Lunchi from under his ass. This guy is still not dead at this time. There is still a lot of vitality, but it seems a little crazy. Constantly muttering that it is impossible. I am the strongest ghost king. Heir to the will of the world. What? Are you crazy? The devil can also go crazy. Really strange guy. Forget it. Let's eat it first, you guy. To be honest, the strength is good, and I hope that the point of belief is also right. Shillong murmured, and threw Ranshur into his mouth. Up to this moment, the eyes of the originally crazy Ranshur suddenly flashed with strange light, and he was not afraid to turn into joy. Ha 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 ha. Damn idiot. Let your body be strong. There must be weakness in the body too. I will be in your body today. It broke you. In just a moment of effort, the 10th wheel returned to its original state from the flat state that was about to die. It quickly penetrated into Shillong's mouth, slid down the cavity all the way to the stomach pouch. It was empty and there was nothing. The surrounding area was red, and the wheel 10 found that it was like a flames, and the temperature was at least 1,000 degrees. It was extremely uncomfortable to be baked, and the black mist on its body constantly offset the high temperature. Ha 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 ha. Let me see if your stomach pouch is as strong as your shell. Give me death. Ranshur laughed. It seemed to have imagined it. It broke its stomach bag with a punch, and then plunged into the scene of crazy destruction in other parts of the opponent's body. Then, when it hit its stomach with all its strength, it discovered that the facts are always going in the opposite direction of what it imagined. With a fierce punch, the stomach pouch was far tougher than it expected. Only a fist mark was reflected, and the force of the counter shock blasted it to the other side of the stomach bag. Ranshur is like a ball, bounces back and forth in this incomprehensible stomach pouch. Shillong, who was outside, felt that his stomach was lightly touched. No discomfort, just a little surprise. He gently stroked his stomach with his paw. This is the first time he has not digested the food in the first time. I don't have indigestion, right? In the next moment, he began to control the organs in his body to prepare for rapid digestion. Shillong's stomach. It took dozens of bounces back and forth before the stopped wheel was considered to be very bleak, and it was not waiting for its next move. Above the stomach pouch, a large piece of magma-like liquid unexpectedly poured from the intestines into the stomach pouch. But this is not magma. The temperature is definitely far higher than magma. When the liquid rolled down, Luan Shi flew to the side wall of the stomach pouch, avoiding the sudden magma waterfall. After the magma entered the stomach bag, Luan Shi was even more uncomfortable, because the temperature in the entire stomach pouch has more than doubled. Wherever his eyes go, it becomes blurred. Damn, I have to do harm to this monster as soon as possible. Otherwise, sooner or later I will run out of energy. I can't die here. Unconsciously, Lunchi changed his name to Shillong. From the original junior to a monster, its heart has already faintly feared. Its arms changed in the black mist and turned into a sharp sword. Then he pierced his stomach bag with the tip of his sword, but still useless. The skin of the stomach pouch was pushed out into a depression, and the rebounding force immediately blasted it into the magma in the stomach pouch. The temperature of this magma is at least 4,000 to 5,000 degrees. It was just the moment he entered, and Chan Shi screamed, and the black fog began to diminish. It immediately skewered out magma and glanced at the intestine where the magma was rolling down, then tentatively attacked the intestines again. But these intestines are equally tough. It found that the monster Silin seemed to have no weaknesses and finally had to give up. Returning to the mouth of Shillong along the intestines, he tentatively attacked again in the mouth and found himself doing useless work. It was ready to slip away from the opponent's nostrils. But unexpectedly, the nostrils of this monster were actually closed. It seems to be pinched with a paw in the outside world. Let it not reach the outside world at all. The mouth was tightly closed, and the same was true for the ears. For a while, Luan Shi was actually trapped. This makes Lu Shi very anxious. At this time, it has realized that it does not seem to be the opponent of this monster at all, and it only thinks about how to escape. Beat each other? This is simply because he thinks too much. In the monster's body, the temperature is still continuously rising, and the heat is constantly heating the whole body in a strange way of reaction. A huge flame actually started to ignite in the intestines. Round 10 found that his energy had already consumed more than half at this time. This is the first time since it was born. It has felt panic, its own smallness, and lack of energy. It even shouted in horror, "Senior, let me out. You are indeed qualified to despise my power. I have nothing to say. Quickly let me out. This world cannot live without me." It yelled for a moment. A voice unexpectedly sounded in the mouth. "Want to survive? It's not impossible. As long as you tell me where the devil and the pool accept you come from, I will let you go." Huh. Luan Shi was a little surprised, but the desperate shouting did not expect that the other party would really pay attention to it. It was a little excited and said, "Okay, I'll tell you. You must speak fortune. Both the devil's pool and the devil are transformed from ordinary humans who have accepted my power. Those who succeed become the devil, and those who fail become black devil juice. Fast. Quickly let me out." Luan Shi quickly explained. "It's so. You are really the most special. Part 2. I look forward to you more." The voice in his mouth echoed. "Quick, let me go out." Round 10 roared, but the voice in his mouth sneered. "You are an old devil who has lived for hundreds of thousands of years. Can you not be so naive? I lie to you? To be honest, I just want to turn you into a nutrient in my body." Ha 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 ha. Damn, you dare to lie to me." Chan Shi was furious and attacked again in his mouth, but immediately, it stopped because the temperature increased. At this time, there is at least a temperature of more than 4,000 degrees in the entire oral cavity. It has less than 40% of its energy left. Continue to squander, it will only make it die faster. Calm down, Chakra 10. First think about, besides the mouth, ears, and nose, what channels can a creature lead to the outside? After thinking for a while, the answer was found in round 10. However, its face was even more ugly, gritted its teeth, and without a word, it followed its mouth back to the stomach full of lava. Strong against the high temperature, swim all the way along the lava channel, looking for its goal, but looking around, only less than 10% of its energy remained. But it still didn't find it. There was disbelief in the eyes of Ren Shi, and he let out a desperate roar. "Damn, you bastard. Is even the closed? Damn it. Why can't I find the channel?" It roared. It was already ready to abandon all its faces. But even so, is it still unable to survive? Idiot. A perfect creature does not need an anus. All energy and food can be absorbed perfectly. There is no waste. How can you understand this kind of realm? A voice was in the wheel again, the side sounded. Damn. Luan Shi let out a final roar in despair, attacking frantically all the way. Until the energy is exhausted, it is decomposed into elementary particles by the terrifying high temperature and then absorbed by Shillong's entire body. The magma in the body has disappeared. Outside, Shillong stretched out a paw and patted his stomach lightly. A satisfied look appeared on his face. The devil in a single round of 10 has provided it with 100 billion power of faith. Worthy of being the first devil. It is a pity that there is no magic pond in the Imperial City, and this 100 billion is already all. After changing back to a human form, Xylem flew back to the Imperial City slowly. Landing again, Lei Dong, who is most familiar with Shillong, couldn't help but ask, have you won the battle with the King of Devil? The other ghost killers also gathered their eyes. Of course, it's already in my stomach, Xylem said, patted his stomach. The ghost killers were somewhat silent. I don't know whether to be happy or sad. Your Majesty, who was originally possessed by the Ghost King, died? Lei Dong asked again. Your Majesty, he died completely after being possessed. At that time, he was not a human being, but a complete devil. Understood. No matter what, you have eliminated the source of the devil as a human. I still have to thank you. Lei Dong finished speaking and bowed to Shillong. Thank you for saving mankind. Let us see the truth of the world, see the future and hope. Seeing Lei Dong, the other ghost killers also bowed to Shillong one by one. You were polite. I did this with my plan, not just because they are rare and delicious. More because this world should belong to my rule. What? You want to rule all of our humans? The ghost killers were shocked. What? Are you still trying to resist? Xylem glanced at them. The ghost killers looked at each other. No words for a while. Everyone knows very well that resisting means seeking a dead end. No accidents. In terms of strength, all previous demons, including those big demons, were in front of this monster. They are all weak ants, without exception. The power of the monster in front of them broke the limit of their imagination. Maybe this guy is really a god. Maybe? Several ghost killers couldn't help thinking in their minds. No, we will not resist. Your lord, you are not a man-eater. As long as we treat us humans sincerely, we are willing to surrender under your command. Number 1 said, it seems you are not stupid. Shillong smiled at this. Until this time, his whole body began to emit golden brilliance, illuminating the entire Imperial City. After being irradiated by the light, those who died began to resurrect one by one. People who were originally sad immediately cried with joy. As for Ghost Killer number 2, whose chest was beaten to death, Feng Lin's chest seemed to be inflated, returning to normal. He coughed slightly and stood up again, somewhat confused looking at the surrounding ruins Wuxia World, Online, and the Ghost Killers. Am I dead? He asked in confusion. Feng Lin, you were actually resurrected, number 1 said in shock. Although they had heard the rumors of the resurrection before, they didn't believe it if they didn't see it in person. But unexpectedly, this resurrection was actually true. The dead without a little water is brought back to life. Shillong Soderbergh, absolutely God. It's no wonder that in the city before, certain believers were so fanatical. Replaced by these demon hunters, if relatives or friends die, they will probably be the same after being resurrected. Start believing in the other person crazy, right? Chapter 329, Resurrection? Feng Lin was a little confused, but soon, he saw a palace guard who died not far away. The whole process of resurrection after being illuminated by golden light, and then he closed his mouth with complicated expression. These people knelt down in front of Shillong, shouting gods. Lei Dong and the other ghost killers looked at the scene in front of them, their expressions a little moved, and their eyes shone slightly. Surin, sir, can I call you that way? Lei Dong asked tentatively. Call me your majesty. Okay, your majesty Xylem. Lei Dong immediately changed his name. Your majesty, I want to ask you a question. Those who died a long time ago, can you resurrect? God is not omnipotent. Xylem shook his head. Life has a soul. When a person dies, the soul will remain in the body for a period of time. When the time limit is exceeded, the soul will go to its own home or dissipate. And this limit is generally around 7 days. Is that so? Lei Dong's eyes dimmed suddenly. He sighed deeply. Several other ghost killers also sighed. As demon hunters, they have too many partners who died in the hands of the devil. Shillong's blooming golden brilliance not only resurrected the dead, but also awakened those humans who should have fainted. Then they were attracted by the golden light and gathered towards Xylem. When the ruins were overcrowded, Shillong became a magic stick again. Then he announced that he would rule and take over the world. These humans had already determined that Shillong was a god, and naturally they had no objection, but were extremely happy. What dissatisfaction is there to be a people of God? After that, he even directly opened the planetary portal of the Alliance where the Brain Demon and others are located. Let the Brain Demon transport a large number of demonized talents. These demonized people are no different from the devil in the eyes of people in this world. They are all weird and unpredictable. If several ghost killers hadn't been informed by Shillong in advance, they would have already hacked people. Ordinary humans, even if Shillong told them to see these demonized people, they stayed away. And the demonized people first came to another world and looked curiously one by one. One of them said, it turns out that in another world, it is also a human being. It's not much different from ours, it's just that the skin is whiter. However, the age of their architectural clothing is so old. I have only seen this kind of thing on the internet. At least it was a product hundreds of years ago. Hey, we were sent because their buildings were not good. Brothers, ready to start. A demonized person like Silt yelled, "Let these old humans see what we can do." Immediately, these demonized people displayed their magical powers, and cement houses and earth houses quickly began to take shape. All demonized people have fully demonstrated what efficiency is to this backward world. The construction was completed that day, and people moved in that day. Those homeless people whose houses were destroyed were still very sad, but now they are laughing, because these newly built houses are much more beautiful than the old ones, and the gods are given to them for free as compensation. As the days passed, the Emperor City was slowly connecting with the Alliance planet. At this time, Shillong did not stay idle, but continued to go to the cities that he had never been to, and swallowed all the demons there. Drink the magic pond water and collect the power of faith. It took a total of 1 month before he cleaned up the entire planet of the devil. For this reason, his power of faith has reached more than 430 billion. At the same time, he discovered that there were only more than 100 cities on this planet. The total population is no more than 10 million, which is really pitiful and very sparsely distributed. When he returned to the Imperial City again, the entire Imperial City has long since changed its appearance, with various apartment-style high-rise buildings and complete entertainment facilities. Ordinary humans also put on new clothes and completely change their appearance. They coexist peacefully with some demonized people who have migrated here from Alliance stars. And the original construction team, under the leadership of the Demon Hunter, has begun to move towards the surrounding cities and start new construction. Although Shillong ruled the planet, he would not personally manage it. It would let people from Alliance Star come to manage it. Among the 10 ghost killers, a few people who are aspiring to change the world were selected to learn management from the side. Shillong didn't let the world demonize like the Alliance Star, but let them continue to maintain the human body. Ask why? It was for the power of faith at that time. He wants these guys to give birth well. Compared with demonic humans, human beings have low strength, but their wisdom is not too prominent. But they can give birth. Demonized people may be because they are powerful, and they are also subject to certain rules of the universe. The stronger, the harder it is to reproduce. There are also different kinds of demons, and there may be reproductive isolation. This greatly reduces the reproduction efficiency of the demonized person. Really have pros and cons. Among them, it is necessary to find a balance point to maximize the power of faith. For this reason, Shillong did not let the human descendants of Alliance Star demonize, even if they are willing. If you want to be demonic, you must complete his mission. For example, having more than 3 children. Well, for now, Shillong encourages fertility very much, and many of them are people's heroes. Starting from the second child, for each birth, the country will reward 200,000 union coins. Going to school in the future, tuition and other things, even more can be waived. For this rule, Shillong also used this devil's world. When have these ordinary people heard of such a good thing? In the past, I was afraid that I would not be able to feed one. The more I give birth, the more I give. This is a great thing. 200,000 alliance coins. They have been in contact with new things through this month, but they know how valuable it is. Those beef that is not common in their eyes and can only be eaten by nobles can be bought for a caddy for only about 40 union coins. Only a dozen union coins are needed for pork. 200,000 union coins. Enough for a family to eat beef and pork every day. You can eat whatever you want. After all, they don't have mortgages and car loan pressure. This is simply the life of a noble master. Is this temptation? These people who are worried about being afraid for a lifetime can resist? I didn't do anything one by one. I just stayed at home all day, holding my wife and working hard. Those who are not married yet and are about the same age quickly found a team that was interesting to each other and went to the wedding house immediately. This is a good thing that humans in the devil world dream of. If you don't do anything the house and the wife are working for the gods and the country. It can also let the poor life step into the rich class. All of them are naturally working hard. For this reason, several lives have been claimed. Of course, all men died. They are exhausted. They died for the country. Is a hero. All humans respect their bravery. But this also caused others to start to converge a bit. After all, the good days have just begun. Isn't it too bad to die? When these people work hard. Shillong is sleeping again. He did not complete the previous plan. Return to the world of spirits and become the so-called king of heaven. Ask why? Of course the plan cannot keep up with the changes. With more than 430 billion beliefs left and used, Shillong feels that he is different from a fool. First, spend your faith and increase your strength is the key. If your strength is strong, you can't return to the world of the elves. You can use violence to conquer directly. Who will play with you? The king. 430 billion beliefs. Part 2. This is another 140 years of growth. At that time, I don't know what level of strength I will surge to. This time he chose to sleep in a mountain range. Did not continue to choose the island. Speaking of islands, the ratio of land to sea in this devil's world is actually 6-4. The land accounts for 60%, and the sea accounts for 40%. There are also islands, but there is nothing on it except some wild animals. The entire planet is also the smallest ever encountered by Shillong. He was not ready to harm the island. After he sleeps, the gravitational force that offsets his weight will naturally dissipate. With his tonnage, there is probably no island in this world that can bear it. Next time you open your eyes, it must be in the seabed that disgusts it again. This is not what he wants. 140 years of growth, more than 11 years of sleep, but fleeting. When Shillong opened his eyes again, he found that he had been covered by a thick layer of soil. The whole body is about 600 meters long, with a wingspan of about 700 meters, except from the original height of about 270 meters. It became about 330 meters tall, 700 meters long, and more than 800 meters wingspan. He didn't get any special abilities, and his appearance didn't change much, especially when the power of 1,000 years exploded in the main material world against the Arcane Empire. At that time, he was surrounded by stars. But even at this time, even if they are added together, there have been 700 to 800 years of growth, but they still haven't reached that point. However, whether it is strength or weight, it has skyrocketed again. Even because it is too heavy, the ground has been sinking nearly 100 meters, covered in dust. In the eyes of mortals, he is a strange mountain. Within 10 kilometers around, there were huge cracks. Gently shake the body. Within 100 miles, the ground is shaking. Fortunately, even after 11 years of development, this place still belongs to the suburbs. It is just a human being 100 miles away. Some people found the water in the cup when they were eating, and it was slightly shaken, but nothing else. Shillong then turned into a human form again and returned to the Imperial City. Flying in the air, looking at the Imperial City below, Shillong felt a little emotional. This world, which was the appearance of the ancient blue star 11 years ago, has only developed in 11 years and has completely entered modern society. Not to mention the tall buildings and the locomotives passing through the streets. Pedestrians wore fashionable clothes and talked and laughed on the street, and the horrible black fog, because of the demise of the devil, has also drastically reduced. Now it only appears at midnight. Both men and women seem to be very open-minded, each arm in a pair, talking and laughing. Hot kisses in the street are not uncommon, because the reward for having more children is still there. All the younger generations know it. To be rich, first fall in love, then go to bed, and then get married. The first child will give birth to the second child. The second child gives birth to the third child. 4, 5, 6 and 7 births from 3 births. The more you give birth, the more you earn. Or the great hero of the people of the motherland. Life is good. Good welfare. Lord Dragon God likes you too. This has also created such a social atmosphere. Shillong has no idea about this. As long as the population does increase for him, the power of faith increases. Then there is no problem at all. In other words, the scale of this imperial city is indeed not small now. Before falling asleep, there were no more than 1 million humans. In just 11 years, the population has doubled 5 times. One by one, because of the welfare of the country, everyone is living a well-off life. Of course, it is only well-off. After all, they cannot afford many luxury goods. This also means that the social structure has not collapsed. There are reasons why people will work. Shillong went straight to the Prime Minister's building. Well, this is a planet, except for the office of the highest leadership outside Shillong. Shillong manages the order of the world. It is a tall building with high security. Shillong originally wanted to fly in directly, but when entering the low altitude, the whole building flashed red. The whining whine kept ringing. The entire building immediately entered a state of alert. Demonized people and masters of demon hunters rushed out of the building, wearing strange equipment, want to encircle Shillong. But the moment they saw Shillong, the group was stunned. Someone stammered, Are you Lord Dragon God? The others were also shocked, but also recognized Shillong as the only after all. No matter what textbook, it will record his deeds and images. It's me. Shillong nodded. The stream of golden particles shining like a blazing sun in his eyes did not hide. Most people have no way to impersonate him with the courage. Lord Dragon God. A group of people nodded their foreheads and hearts excitedly, praying. Then they were driven away by Shillong. Shillong walked directly into the building and came to the Prime Minister's office building. When he opened the door and entered the office, he realized that the Prime Minister at this time was no longer the one he was 11 years ago, but the same guy Shillong knew. It was the ghost killer from 11 years ago, Thunderous. This guy is wearing a black suit, sitting at a computer desk, working online. The look is serious and serious. On the other side, with his back to him, she has not seen him in 11 years and has grown into a big girl. Yu reading www.uukangshu. Calm, but Hu Xiaodai is wearing a cos suit. The girl was sitting at the desk on the other side, watching the anime introduced from the Alliance Star, and she was fascinated. He kept stuffing his mouth. Well, her side is full of snacks. Shillong's arrival first caught the thunderbolt on the other side. When Lei Dong looked up and saw Shillong, he was shocked, and then quickly saluted, "Your Majesty, you are here." Ah. Hu Xiaodai saw thunderous actions. Turning his head blankly after seeing Shillong, he immediately showed a look of joy and smiled happily. "Big brother Shillong, we finally meet again." While she was talking, she jumped up from her seat and ran to Shillong a few steps, trying to give him a hug. Chapter 330. But before the person got close, Shillong grabbed his head and lifted it up. The little girl was only 1.6 meters tall and was directly lifted in the air by the 1.9 meter Silent, which looked a little funny and ridiculous. When the little girl grows up, she doesn't understand the difference between men and women. She wants to eat her own tofu. Huh. Naive. Shillong looked at the girl with disgust. Ah. Hu Xiaodai, who was pinched his head, looked blank. How is it different from the animation? Didn't they both say that if two people haven't seen each other for a long time, they will hug each other for joy? Will they cry with joy? So, am I human? Silem raised an eyebrow and asked. Oh, I get it. Big Brother is not a human, but a dragon god. Hu Xiaodai showed a daze. That's not the case. Besides, there are differences between males and females, and they are not husbands and wives. What kind of decent hug and hug? Shillong said. Oh. Hu Xiaodai replied, feeling a little disappointed on his face. After being put down by Shillong, he stood on the other side without saying a word. Shillong then looked at Lei Dong. You surprised me a bit. The silent guy 11 years ago became the prime minister. I was very surprised myself, Your Majesty. Lei Dong's mouth curled up stiffly, revealing an expression that seemed to be smiling. Perhaps because I had contact with Your Majesty. 4 years ago, the brother of the Alliance Star wanted to choose a successor among me and the other ghost killers. Everyone recommended me. Well, there is also Xiaodai. Because of your deep sleep, she has no source of food. She has been eating rice with me. And Xiaodai thinks that after you fall asleep, you should come to find me and stay here. When Shillong heard this, he glanced at Hu Xiaodai a little unexpectedly. He didn't think that the little girl before was not completely a dumbfounded person. In response, Hu Xiaodai smiled slightly. Big brother Shillong, you are awake now. Can I still follow you in the future? She asked. Before, it was because you were young that I was pitiful to take you for a while. Don't rely on me. Silem didn't have the joy of Lori's development at all. The girl's mouth shrank slightly, a little depressed. If you want to have the opportunity to follow me in the future, you should work hard to cultivate. Only a powerful servant will have the opportunity to work for me in the future and appear next to me again. Shillong said. Oh, I understand. Hu Xiaodai showed a clear expression. I will work hard in the future, and I won't be greedy anymore. Silem just nodded casually, not thinking that he would have too much intersection with the other party in the future. He cast his eyes on Thunder, and the next time, he began to understand the specific development of the world and said some words of encouragement, his expectations. Then he left. The total population of this world, even after 11 years of development, is only more than 40 million. There is still a lot of room for development. Shillong asked them to live hard. For this planet, 40 million people is nothing at all. As for Alliance Star, because there are too few human beings, the population increase is not that much. In general, the belief points that it can acquire every day are not much more than it was 11 years ago. This is because after 11 years, the worship of mankind in the spirit world has faded too much. After all, it has been too long since he appeared in the world of spirits. One increase and one decrease. The faith provided to Shillong every day only increased by more than 50,000. Reached 4.05 million. After 11 years of sleep, Shillong still has more than 17 billion faiths left. He also had no plans to continue to sleep. He was ready to hunt the new world. This time the location was changed to an island in the Devil's World. Then continue the same as before, taking a group of executed prisoners to explore the way. As for why not continue to explore the path on the Alliance planet? Of course it is to make a choice. If he encounters an enemy that even Shillong can't solve, he will run away directly, without hesitation. Of course, this possibility is slim. After all, Yishulin's current strength, even in the multiverse, is definitely a strong one. After all, the real world is not a fantasy world that is bragging all the time. Destroying stars is like eating and drinking. That group of authors, Miexing, is not worth mentioning in their mouths. It's entirely because these don't even know the greatness of the planet. Is Blue Star's nuclear bomb powerful enough? It is possible to destroy humans, but to destroy the Earth is pure fart. It's almost the same to tick the Earth. To destroy the Earth, Shillong once saw a piece of data when he was at Blue Star. It may take 1 trillion tons of TNT to do it. How much does all the nuclear bombs of Blue Star add up? What else can destroy the universe at every turn? Your uncle. The universe is too big to be estimated. If you open your mouth and shut it down, it will be destroyed. Sure enough, you are just hanging on if you can't pay taxes. From the current point of view of Shillong, whether it is the Devil world or the Alliance world, the universe of these two worlds is extremely small. The Milky Way is smaller than the Blue Star. This kind of universe may be more accurately called Shanghai, but even the Milky Way is already a terrifying realm of astronomy. On the deserted island, the death row prisoners were sent into the portal one by one, without any news, until the 62nd place. On a certain plane, two people gathered here at this time. Headed by one party are long-eared elves with purple skins and strange patterns engraved on their skins. They are extremely hot and tall. Each of them is over 1.8 meters. There are many boys and girls in the entire army. Compared with women, men are generally short, only about 1 meter 6, and their stature is even thinner. Most of them are behind the army. All of them had a slender sword pinned to their waists, and the leader was riding a tall one-horned horse. On the other side, there is a group of green-skinned orcs. They are hideous, stout, and their average height is more than 1.9 meters, holding stone tools, maces, giant tree roots, and other weapons one by one, surrounded by animal skin skirts. The leader is riding a gray wolf. But if you look closely, you will find that this orc army is mostly composed of elderly orcs, less than 30% of young adults. The distance between the two parties is only 300 to 400 meters. The number of people on each side is above 50,000. However, the number of people on the purple skin elf side is obviously more, and the equipment is more sophisticated. The atmosphere between the two parties almost solidified. On the purple skin elf side, a female general led by it shouted loudly, "Greedy! Stupid orcs! This is the territory of the Dark Elf Empire. If you dare to go one step further, the great Dark Elven Empire will surely destroy you all." Dirty purple leather fairy. Don't think I don't know. Every night, you sneak into our clan secretly, capture the young and middle-aged people, force them to mate with you. In the end, our youth died miserably. It's really hateful. It has caused a huge drop in the number of young adults in our clan in recent years. Humph. You purple skins. Men in the clan are not good. Such a persecution of our youth. Really shameless. Today, if you don't give an argument, we'll surely end up with you. We orcs. Never be a slave. An orc headed by shouted. The orcs behind them were affected by the leading orcs, and they roared angrily. Shut up. The purple-skinned elf led angrily. Looked by our dark elf women. It's the luckiest thing in your orc man's life. Such a blessing. Don't know how to be grateful? Still trying to get revenge? Really don't know what is good or bad. Shameless woman. How can my orc guys fall in love with your ugly purple skins? Mate with you ugly guys. It is the greatest shame of our orc men. The headed orc roared. Part 2. His eyes are full of compassion. Look at these purple skin elves. Not strong at all. Waist so thin. Not coarse at all. The is so up. Not forgiving at all. The calf is so thin. Not strong at all. The face is so small. Not big at all. The skin is so smooth. Not rough at all. Everything is so ugly. Too disgusting. It's ugly to the extreme. Just think about it and make the headed orc nauseous and pity my great orc guy. It was so humiliated. Damn Chingpi. Submission is your only choice. The dark elf headed by him looked gloomy. We orcs. We will never accept this fate. Today, I want you purple skins to see the determination of our orcs. The headed orcs roared. Seeing that the atmosphere between the two sides is more depressing, a big battle is imminent. Suddenly, a purple-black door appeared. This caused tension between the orcs and the dark elves. Everyone couldn't help but focus on that door. What is this stuff? Until a strange creature with 8 legs, 2 hands and 4 eyes appeared. Its appearance surprised everyone slightly. What kind of monster is this? They have never seen it before. After seeing the orcs and dark elves, the monster's original horrified expression immediately turned into a surprised expression, and then his head would not retract. A breeze blew across the battlefield. A group of people became even more confused. What the is this? Until a human appeared from the portal. This human being has a very strong figure, wearing a piece of clothing he has never seen before, and looks more expensive. Perhaps it was the noble costumes of some human empires. The look was a little indifferent, with a smile on the corner of his mouth. His eyes are very special, as bright and dazzling as the golden sun in the sky. Even if surrounded by tens of thousands of troops, he was still extremely calm. Orc? Elves? Is this a fantasy world? Come talk to yourself. Then he glanced at the scorching sun above his head, smiled and said, Good afternoon, everyone. Who are you? How did you appear here? The purple-skinned woman frowned and shouted, This is just a little magic. Why are you so surprised? The visitor seemed a little surprised. Magic? That's just some deceptive tricks, How can it be like you? The dark elf asked in surprise. A deceitful trick? The visitor seemed even more surprised. In your world, is magic such a lowly existence? The visitor twitched his nose gently. The magic element seems to be unexpectedly weak. It seems to be a plane with extremely low mystery. Human, I don't care how you appeared here, but now that you appear here, then you have no reason to let go. Ella, Leah, you two, go and tie that man. Tonight, let the sisters have a good time. The purple-skinned woman urged the two women beside her. Yes, boss. The dark elves on both sides responded, licked their purple lips, smiled, and ran towards the man. Seeing this, the orc leader coldly snorted and shouted, Shameless dark elf woman, actually want to do that dirty thing again. Humanity, if you don't want to be caught and become their fertility tool, run away. When the person who came suddenly heard the old orc's reminder, his expression became a little weird. He frowned and looked at the two purple-skinned female elves running towards him and waved gently. Immediately, a fierce hurricane blew, and the two female elves and their mounts were lifted up several meters and fell to the ground. Ouch! They cried out painfully. In an instant, the entire army of purple skin elves seemed to be on fire, one by one bent bows and arrows, aiming at the man. After only a command, 1,000 arrows will be fired and the human will be shot to death. The leading female elf even yelled, Human, what did you just do? Where did you learn the magic? Answer me. Everyone. Shawan, don't worry. The visitor waved his hand, not at all burdened by being targeted by tens of thousands of arrows. This made the orcs next to him a little admired. Human, answer the question I just asked. What did you do? The leader of the purple skin elf asked again. Regarding things that they don't understand, all beings will maintain different attitudes such as being cautious, fearful, or crazy. However, the man still didn't mean to answer, but said to himself, Everyone, do you believe in gods? Believe that there is a in this world? God. When everyone was in a daze, they really couldn't keep up with the brain circuits of the person in front of them. So how could they ask this question in an easy way? We orcs don't believe in gods. We only believe in our ancestors. Even if it is death, they will be with us. Protect us from the shameless dark elves. The orc leader shouted, Damn human. Now I am asking you. Answer my previous question. I only give you 3 seconds. 3. The leader of the purple-skinned elves was ignored by the visitors and looked very angry and directly issued an ultimatum. The visitor sighed deeply when the purple-skinned elf was so irritable. Then under everyone's eyes, the body shape of the incoming person suddenly twisted and his body began to swell, from an ordinary human to a weird dragon creature. Then the little dragon started to swell. He quickly surpassed the strongest and then he became bigger than the house, become bigger than the largest dark elf palace. It has become bigger than those towering trees that average 7 to 80 meters. Up to this point, this monster had reached the extreme of terror, but he still did not stop swelling until he became as tall as a mountain. Completely separate the two legions. The invisible breath leaked out of the monster's body unconsciously. The air becomes depressed, and everyone feels that their breathing is not smooth. Some people even passed out directly. The mounts under everyone's hips neighed even more, and they ran wildly. Chapter 331. Because of the appearance of this monster, the originally tight two army formations instantly became chaotic, and the archers who were originally aiming at the elf side were affected by this riot, and the rain of arrows all over the sky was even more violent, and many of them shot at their own people. Others are like small toothpicks, like being blown on the monster by the wind, and they have no effect at all. After the monster appeared, he just watched the rioting crowd quietly. It was a long time until the riots ended. Head. Boss. What kind of monster is this? Beside the elf leader, a female elf trembled. It should be the dragon. Right. The elf leader inhaled, somewhat uncertain. Dragon. Is there such a big one? Said the previous questioner. According to the record, no. The elf leader swallowed hard. Is this a dragon? Is the dragon so big? Not at all. According to records, the largest dragon in the world is only about 8 meters in height and 17 or 8 meters in length. Even so, it is a monster far beyond the imagination of ordinary things. But this monster in front of you, let alone a height of about 300 meters. This special is also called dragon? Aren't all the lizards we encountered before? Let's run. Chief! Someone shouted on the side of the elf. The orc had already turned around and started to run away. Stop it all. A thunderous roar sounded, but everyone was afraid of this monster to death. He didn't mean to stop, he was still running away frantically. Stupid inferior creatures, why did you run away when you saw the dragon god? It's your honor. There was a little annoyance in the sound of the terrifying monster. He took a light breath, then exhaled. A horrible pillar of fire fell from the sky. directly blasting 100 meters in front of the escaping purple-skinned elves. These elves screamed and stopped, and then wanted to escape from another location. But the pillar of fire drew a circle around the elves and orcs who had escaped from right to left. Trapped everyone up? This is a lava ditch more than 30 meters wide. The entire channel was red. Large tracts of crystals and lava rolled in the trench, and heat filled the sky. An entire army of tens of thousands was trapped in the circle formed by this lava ditch. Elves and orcs are like ants. Nowhere to go. Low and mysterious, they are not strong, but they don't have the ability to span more than 30 meters of lava ditch. You monster, what do you want? The dark elf leader asked with a trembling voice. The orcs felt that they were innocent. They did not offend this monster at all, and now they have to be trapped by this monster along with the shameless purple skin elf. Obviously their orcs are determined to die, but that kind of enlightenment is for the future of the race, not for the incomprehensible creatures that can't be matched at a glance at this end. I just want to have a good chat with you. See what scares you. Although I am older and stronger, I am actually very good at talking. Come, everyone sit down. Good, don't be afraid. It's just like chatting with family members. The monster said something and sat down in front of them, looking at them with a smile. Everyone looked at me, I looked at you, and looked at the ditch that could not be crossed, and finally sat down slowly with a numb scalp. That's right. The monster nodded seemingly kindly. Back to the topic just now, do you have any gods of faith? Who do you believe in? The orcs have already said it. Lovely elves, talk about yours. We don't believe in gods, but in the purple moon at night. The dark elf leader said, holding back his numb scalp. The monster nodded. Among you, how many people are there in total? 210,000. The orc trembled. About 350,000, the dark elf said. The population is small, but it doesn't matter. The monster seemed to be muttering to himself. Then he looked kindly. If I ask you to change your beliefs and believe in me sincerely, what do you think? We. Both the orcs and the dark elves hesitated. Booming suddenly, the huge monster made a loud noise under its body. The ground under the monster began to shatter and sink tens of meters. A series of terrible spider web-like cracks suddenly appeared, spreading for several kilometers in a radius. Many orcs and dark elves fell directly in and were killed on the spot. Others were lucky enough to be stuck in the gap, calling for help. What did you do? The dark elf asked in surprise. Sorry, I forgot to restrain my strength to remove my own weight. No, this ground collapsed. The monster was talking and suddenly opened his mouth. Ama. Suddenly, the monster sneezed. An extremely violent wind rushed towards the elf. Near the hundreds of Shillong, thousands of elves were directly rolled up for several meters and fell suddenly, crying in pain. The elves in the rear saw the monster but sneezed and almost made thousands of brave warriors lose their combat effectiveness. Don't mention how timid. The dark elf leader was lying on the ground. She was also a member of the monster who was thrown into the air by a sneeze, not to mention how scared the monster was in her heart. Oh, can't you believe in me? My dragon is really good at talking. As long as you believe in me, the benefits will be too much. I will not only heal your injuries, but I will also resurrect the people who have just died and give you strength. Don't think about it? The monster in front said again. Great dragon, we are willing to enshrine you as a god. Your supernatural power is worth our faith. The orcs who worship the strong seemed to easily identify with the monsters in front of them. One by one fell to the ground, knocking the monsters' heads. Very good. I feel your sincerity. The dragon nodded happily. An ray of light immediately shot at the few hapless guys who had fallen into the crack. Then these hapless people nearby discovered that the people who had already died had actually been resurrected again. Then he was dragged up by an invisible force and returned to the ground. And the few orc leaders who have been at the forefront even found that their old body was reinvigorated. Become younger. The bones have become stronger and stronger. They have become young and strong. This dragon, maybe it is really a god. Seeing such a miracle, the orcs seem to have become a lot more religious and bowed down more sincerely. My name, Silent Soderberg, the great dragon god. The power to control light, flame, destruction, and immortality. You can call me your majesty. The dragon said. The orcs immediately changed their words and called him your majesty the dragon god. When the dark elves saw this situation, they could only admit that the armies that the two sides were about to fight were all subdued by Shillong. Of course, at this time, they still have resistance and indifference in their hearts. But these are not the issues. Shillong directly sent the demonized people on the Alliance planet to take over everything. After all, the combat power of this world is low, and to be honest, there are only these two armies. Tens of thousands of troops. Shillong didn't see one above level 6 in it. It is a world of extremely low mystery. Shillong randomly sent a few dozen demons to control the situation. Next, for this world, Xylem did not personally take action, but handed over to the army of demons to clean up. The result is naturally easy to complete the task. The Alliance Star is now a world where technology and mystery are both important. Not only has heavy weapons, but also dozens of legendary powerhouses. Above level 10 is even more unclear. Although there are few humans, there are some problems with reproduction. But there are enough demonized people. Almost all of the people are soldiers, and they believe in him firmly. How can there be any accidents in this ordinary low-mystery, low-tech world? When the army of demonized people crushed one city after another. Part 2. The local humans almost thought they had seen the messenger of hell, and they did not dare to fight. Crash across the board. Of course, if they have the courage, they will also despair. Because the difference in combat power is too big. Some courageous people, as soon as they came into contact with the demonized people, they found that these monsters could breathe fire, spray water, spit, and spit wind blades. Almost proficient in everything. Like a monster in myth. Some kingdom troops who are not afraid of death. The hundreds of thousands of troops were in contact with the demonized people, and they were beaten to collapse within a few minutes. Calling the army, and then rout. The so-called strongest sword saint in the kingdom can't even beat an ordinary demonized soldier. As for the races in this world, the largest number is humans, followed by elves, orcs, and so on. The strongest is the dragon. Well, this dragon is not the other dragon. These dragons do nothing except breathe fire, do not know magic, do not speak dragons, and look like a huge flying lizard. The strongest, but also comparable to level 10 human fighters. It was really weak, and there was hardly any resistance in advancing, but within 10 or 20 days, Shillong's demonized army completely conquered the world. A total of 420 million people surrendered to Xylem. Accept the advanced ideas and knowledge reform under Shillong's command. I believe that it will not take long for this world to be on the right track. As long as the next generation is born, this world will enter the age of true faith. After all, these people are like leeks. The original ones that have not been taken care of are not good, but the next batch of people who have been taken care of are naturally different. At this time, these 420 million people provided Shillong with very little power of faith, but increased by 100,000 beliefs per day. Then Shillong returned to Alliance Star again and began to form humans to explore the alien plane. Until the death 57 people. In a certain world, in the cosmic star sea, a spaceship is flying towards a huge planet in the solar system intertwined with white and dark at an extremely fast speed. In a corner of an unmanned waste area, a dark portal suddenly appeared on a white metal wall. A strange-looking creature walked out of the door. After seeing the surroundings, he immediately retracted with joy. Then, a young man wearing sunglasses walked out of it, and the transmission door behind it disappeared. He looked around and seemed a little surprised. It's a coincidence that this time the portal actually opened directly on a spaceship that was sailing. Spaceships with independent navigation capabilities are really rare enough, and the speed is not slow, reaching 30 times the speed of sound. And looking at the direction of the spacecraft, it should be ready to log on to the gray planet ahead. Heh, this planet seems a bit interesting. The man, Shillong, muttered to himself after the detection. Then he retracted his gaze when he was in a garbage dump full of rubbish. He walked to the electronic door silently and stroked it gently with his hand. The electronic door opened, and he slowly walked out of the door. Before taking a few steps, he saw several people in white clothes walking over with a pile of eaten leftovers. It should be garbage. Among them, the leader is a man in his 30s. Seeing Shillong's inattentive look, he frowned and said, "You guys from the security division, can you stop running around casually? Isn't it good to stay in your own house honestly? I really don't understand why the above asks you unruly people to come with us to complete the task." The two people around this person looked at Zero with expressionless eyes, very cold. Shillong was a little surprised by this. He wanted to use Hypnosis Arcane directly after he was discovered that something was wrong. As a result, these guys seemed to mistake him for someone? Fair enough. Shillong just smiled at this, shrugged, and passed them by. Then I found the security department area among the previous populations, found a house, and walked in. Inside was a dormitory where two people lived. But it was obvious that there was only one person in this room. He was lying on a bed and flipping through a cartoon called Number One in the World. The other bed was not even covered with a quilt. After Shillong walked in, the young man half lying on the bed frowned and glanced at Shillong. "Who are you? Your parents didn't teach you what is polite? You don't know how to knock when you enter other people's rooms?" Shillong's eyes under the sunglasses glanced at the opponent, and a strange wave hit the opponent. But immediately, this force was broken up by the opponent. A blue energy appeared on the half-lying man's hand, and a wave of his hand dispelled this energy that ordinary people could not see. His brows furrowed more severely. "You guy Wuxia World Online is also an extraordinary person, but why haven't I met you?" Seeing this, Shillong raised his eyebrows unexpectedly. My own arcane art that hasn't improved for a long time. It really doesn't work. Facing someone with a little bit of strength, he failed. Shillong did not answer the other party's question. The young man on the opposite side frowned, stared at Shillong, and kept thinking, and then said after a moment, "It seems that the senior members of this focus don't trust me as a wild road halfway through. He actually hides you. Kind of extraordinary people on board. But what is it for you to appear in front of me now? Surveillance? It's really annoying." The man complained, then turned his head and continued to read the cartoon, ignoring Shillong. "Do you like this site? Donate here." Chapter 332. Shillong was a bit funny about this. There were not many people on this spacecraft, only 100 or 200 people, but they didn't seem to be in harmony. They rarely communicate with each other. He didn't do the ass, just came in foolishly. But think about it, they are all on the same spacecraft and are sailing in space. How could they think that an outsider would come in at this time? Unless it is the kind of person who can remember everyone, it will pass with a little brainstorming. Shillong didn't bother about the bed without a quilt and lay on it. He also didn't mean to communicate with the other party. The more he said, the easier it was to expose himself. The other party didn't care about Shillong, and the two of them were in peace. The staff who delivered the food at night looked at the extra Shillong with some surprise, but immediately murmured, "The people of the security section are really casual and have no rules. They will change their residences after notification. Is this considered awkward?" Then it passed. Synopsis had been on the spacecraft for 3 days, and suddenly felt the spacecraft shake and began to slow down. After a while, the red light in the room began to flash. A male voice rang from the speakers hanging on the wall in the room. "All the soldiers of the security division, Sky Pluto has been reached. Please be prepared. Go to the entrance and exit, ready to log in." The end of this voice is only when it is reported 3 times. Bah, what an annoying guy. Annoying senior green star. The man in the room with Shillong murmured. Then he packed his clothes and left. Shillong smiled slightly and swaggered to follow. The two turned around and came to the entrance. This was a cold aisle with thick special glass on both sides. I can see the outside scenery, and above the barren land, there is a faint blue mist drifting. There were 2 groups of people who came to the entrance and exit. One group was uniformly dressed, neatly equipped with various firearms, and was a group of soldiers. A total of 40 people. Another group of humans, including Shillong, were 19 males or females, aged 15 to 40. In the middle is a middle-aged man wearing a tights, like a leader. After scanning a circle of soldiers, the middle-aged man nodded in satisfaction, then glanced at everyone in the security section, frowning. "No, why is there one more of you?" When everyone heard what the leader said, they were all in a daze. "You look at me, I look at you," and finally focused on Synopsis. The leader also frowned and looked at Shillong. He took his digital watch and swept it at Shillong. His complexion immediately changed his way. "What's the matter with you, guy? There is no identity information for you on my fleet." The man who had been living with Shillong for 3 days looked at Shillong in surprise. Shillong was watched, but didn't seem to want to pay attention to them. When everyone saw him silent, the leader looked at the man who had lived with Shillong for 3 days and said, "I just saw you two come together, do you know?" The man shook his head. "I don't know. This guy suddenly appeared in my room 3 days ago. Oh, yes, he also has extraordinary powers." "Have extraordinary power? Is it a psychedelic or mind control type?" The leader frowned. "No wonder I can sneak onto the spaceship secretly, huh?" As he spoke, the leader actually laughed. The senior leaders of Green Star tried their best to find extraordinary people to complete this mission, but they didn't find much. "There are people sneaking in. You are very interesting." The leader said a word and stopped talking. The gaze that looked at Shillong was sympathetic and pitiful. Finally, he looked solemnly out of the open door. "After more than half a year of space travel, I don't think you have forgotten that you have entered the security department. What are you doing?" "Of course, dig as many blue supernatural spars on this planet as possible." Someone replied. "Yes, you guys. Ability to possess extraordinary power. Not only is the grace of heaven, it is also the gift of the Green Star Alliance. It makes you change the original ordinary life. So I hope you can contribute your efforts to collect as many kyanite as possible. The more you collect, its focus will give you more rewards. Just now, pick up the suitcase on the ground and get ready to go." The leader shouted, and then he was the first to pick up a suitcase stacked on the ground. This is used to hold the so-called kyanite. The soldiers took the lead, picking up suitcases and following the leader down the entrance and exiting the spacecraft. They left the spacecraft without wearing protective clothing, and Synopsis got off the spaceship with these people and took a breath through his nose. It seemed that there was the oxygen necessary to give birth to the human planet. The environment is not much different from the planet where humans live. "I just got off the spaceship and haven't walked a few steps yet." His eyes condensed, and in the distant sky, a black shadow jumped towards here. "That's right. Just jump. Every time you take off, You can jump tens of meters away. Boom. With a loud noise, not far in front of everyone, smoke and dust filled. Everyone was stunned by the sudden change, and they stared at the abnormal noise with vigilance. A monster with a height of 2.5 meters and a rabbit head slowly walked out of the smoke. This is a monster that is so strong that it is exaggerated, and its muscles are like forged with black steel, more exaggerated than the human bodybuilding champion. And in sharp contrast with its body is its rabbit head. The completely white rabbit head is fluffy and small, with 2 front teeth exposed. If you look at the head alone, it might make people feel cute, but when the body and the head are together, it feels very strange. It tilted its head and looked at the soldiers and the humans in the security section. What kind of monster is this? A soldier said in a little panic. The hand holding the gun was shaking a little. The rabbit head monster yelled cutely, looking at the speaker. Immediately afterwards, I heard a bang. The head of the soldier who spoke before burst instantly, and the rabbit monster appeared in front of the soldier. A fist the size of a casserole replaced the soldier's original head. On the fist, a bright red. Click, the headless body fell in a breeze. Suddenly encountered such a terrifying situation. Several soldiers and several members of the security section could not help but yell. Several soldiers pulled the trigger directly. The flames flickered. A series of bullets shot at the rabbit head monster amid the roar. The rabbit head monster may not recognize the machinery in front of him, and he didn't move, but was hit by a bunch of bullets. The sound of puff puff sounded. The moment these bullets hit the rabbit head monster neighed and flashed aside. Perhaps because the speed was too high, the subsequent bullets could not keep up with the speed of the rabbit head monster. Before long, the roar of guns stopped. Everyone looked at the rabbit head monster. I saw several bullets inlaid on his extremely strong body. Only 1/3 of these bullets were shot inside the rabbit head monster. All other parts are exposed. Streaks of blue blood are slowly flowing down the crater. The rabbit head monster looked at the guns in the soldiers' hands with some caution, and the two sides once again became alert to each other. A security officer trembled. Hey, Mollis, you bastard. You tricked me into the ship before, but didn't tell me there is such a terrifying monster here. You bastard. Is it for us to die? The faces of the soldiers were also not very good, but some of the security section was still unmoved when seeing this situation. These people seem to have known that there are monsters here. The other part is as scared as the previous speaker. And Mollis, who was questioned, was the leader who had spoken on the spacecraft before. Wearing a tight suit, he looked at the rabbit head monster with a heavy face. Part 2. After hearing the question, he said solemnly, I didn't expect the monsters here to have such strength. Divine power crystal. Sure enough, it was a miraculous product. It turned a rabbit that was slaughtered into such a monster. Mollis sighed to himself, and then looked at a member of the security division and said, Tyan, you come to do it. Let the newly joined little brothers know what a truly extraordinary person is. Courage and strength. Indispensable. Yes, sir. Among the members of the security section, a middleman responded. There was a sneer at the corner of his mouth. Both arms shook. One arm directly turned into a sharp black steel blade, and then without a word, the foot moved. It turned into an afterimage to kill the rabbit monster. Clang, the sharp blade slashed directly on the fist of the rabbit monster. The moment the two intersected, they launched a series of attacks. The sound of metal clanging almost joined together. The blade of the man and the fist of the bunny head turned into afterimages. Ordinary people can't see clearly. While Shillong was watching clearly on the side, he was slightly surprised. The strength of these two guys is not weak, at least above level 15. The two are evenly matched in strength, and if they continue to fight like this, I am afraid they will not be able to tell the winner in a short time. But soon, the man with the knife in his right arm surprised Shillong again. After fighting the bunny head for dozens of seconds, his left arm turned into a sprayer. A large white mist sprayed out at once, and the bunny head was slightly stiff by the sudden mist. And the man also took this opportunity to pierce the bunny monster's chest directly with the blade of his right arm. The arm was stirred fiercely, giving the monster a chill. After doing this, the rabbit head monster's whole body froze in place. The man in the middle divided his mouth with a smile, gently withdrew the blade in his hand, turned around, and nodded agreeably to everyone. The leader on one side saw that the bunny head monster had been solved, and said with a light smile, This is Tyan. The extraordinary power is to absorb and assimilate. It can store the objects that are usually absorbed in the cells of the body. Until it is used, it can be directly turned out. You should have seen it too. This is our human power. Guard, the power of the owner of extraordinary power, even if there are monsters on this planet. We are equally fearless. The leader said words of encouragement, and some soldiers and some members of the security section seemed to have improved a lot. But at this moment, the accident happened again. It was originally frozen, like a dead rabbit head monster, suddenly punched. The terrible explosion sounded. In just an instant, a huge fist pierced through the middle man's chest and appeared on the other end. The middle point man let out a miserable cry. His strength was exhausted, and his body directly froze. He looked down at his pierced chest in horror, and of course the blood was flowing continuously. Everyone looked at him with horror. Even the leader Malice, who had been fairly calm before, was a little shocked. The scorer opened his mouth and wanted to shout for help, but at this time, he didn't have the power to scream at all, so he could only silently open his mouth. Help, life, who, come, save, me? The voice is low and inaudible. Fear, despair, fear, and extremely complex emotions were so strong in his eyes that he couldn't get rid of it, until there was a thump. The fist behind him was taken away. A huge amount of blood burst out of the huge hole in his chest. With a puff, the middle scorer fell down. He couldn't even dream that the rabbit-head monster, with such a big opening in his chest, would not die. Ham, the bunny head, tilted his head, as if looking at the fallen middleman with some confusion, and then at the frightened human in the distance. On the human side, because of the fall of the middleman, he also saw the bunny head clearly. The chest that should have been bleeding is no longer bleeding. The hole in the chest is still there, but the chest behind the chest begins to heal strangely. It's like a hole in your chest. It's natural. Damn, these monsters still have this ability. The leader cursed, completely devoid of the previous stability. Damn the Green Star Alliance. I never said before that these stocked monsters are so strong. He scolded, but his body was shocked, and his clothes burst directly. His body directly began to swell, becoming as tall as a bunny head monster. All the transcendence. Take action with me. Destroy this monster. Malice shouted loudly, then rushed towards the rabbit head monster. Pung. The rabbit head monster immediately fought back, fighting against Malice in full spirit. The Com Security Division immediately assisted Malice Wuxia World. Online, some of these people threw flames the size of a wash basin remotely, and some of their fingers shot out blue beams. More use of mental abilities interfere with the shot of the rabbit head monster. The dust and mist are surging. The two sides fought for several minutes. The life of the bunny monster is more tenacious than everyone expected. Even if the head was knocked off the small side, even if the whole body was burnt to yellow by the fireball, the body was sunken in many places, and the blue rays shot through the holes, still fighting. Until the whole body is broken and the rabbit's head is torn off, it is considered death. The combat power is really shocking. In Shillong's view, this combat power can at least increase the strength of 1 to 2 levels. Everyone was shocked so far. Some people even went to check for a few minutes and frustrated them before they were completely relieved. Chapter 333. You should give us an explanation. Malice, a bald head in the security division, asked. He is not an insider, just an ordinary person who obtained extraordinary power by chance. Those soldiers also didn't know about it, and they wouldn't be the first to ask, but at this time they also fixed their eyes on Malice. They couldn't help thinking, you are a monster, and here is also a monster. What is the battle between your monsters and monsters that pulls us ordinary people up? Explanation? Are you not very clear? For the Green League, we have to collect kyanite, Malice said with a gloomy expression. Collecting kyanite is not here to die. Malice, you are not afraid of death, I admire. But sorry, I'm just an ordinary person. I am afraid of death. Therefore, I will not accompany you to die. The bald head of the security section said, You lucky guy. Now that you have obtained the seeds of extraordinary power cultivated by Focus, you are already a member of Focus. How could you say such a lack of ambition? Malice said, People from Focus? What are you kidding? Bald yelled, pointing at the soldier, and said, I am different from them. I have not sworn to join the Green League. I am just an ordinary person. Ordinary people who have been coerced and lured into this spaceship by you. What did you say before? Is there no danger to this planet? Just think of it as a vacation trip. There are high rewards. This is clearly to let us die. There is such a monster. How do we collect kyanite safely? You taught me. Bald head roared, eyes blood red. Ha, Malice didn't answer, but laughed instead. You actually think that you have gained extraordinary power, and you are not a member of the Green League? You have to figure out that the extraordinary power in your body belongs to the Focus. You lucky guys. Focus has not sliced such extraordinary things as us. It is already a gift from heaven. The purpose of our lives is to gather kyanite for Focus. If you give up collecting because of cowardice, then others will too, and everyone gives up. Then, for the senior leaders of Focus, those of us who don't have to live anymore. You understand? Malice looked at the bald man with a sneer. You mean, the Green League will kill us? The bald man was a little frightened. Unobedient, useless tools are not good tools. That being the case, they will naturally slice and study us, and find a way to transplant the extraordinary in our body to the obedient. Do you understand? Why? How could this? The bald man was a little lost and muttered to himself, why? Then Focus wants kyanite so much. For this reason, so many of us have come to die. Kyanite. This is the source of extraordinary power in our body. Mollis said softly. But although the sound is light, the planet is too quiet, so everyone around can hear it clearly. The source of transcendence? Yes. You should all remember the Pluto landing 5 years ago? Mollis was expressionless. Of course I remember that when our human spacecraft technology just matured, we sent a spacecraft to Pluto and brought back a lot of supplies on Pluto. One person said, and immediately thought of something. Continued to frown, and among those materials, there must be kyanite, right? But kyanite should be a secret substance, right? You said it has extraordinary powers in it, but why doesn't this material allow the loyal people of the Green League to gain extraordinary powers? Instead, let ordinary people like me gain extraordinary? This person is very puzzled. This is also the key. Focus scientists, when studying kyanite, found that the extraordinary power inside seemed to be self-conscious. Half a year after they reached the green star, the aquamarine melted away. The transcendent soul inside ran out directly and chose the ordinary people nearby. And we, just those lucky ones. No human being does not desire this extraordinary power. After seeing the power of the extraordinary power and the magic of kyanite, the senior leaders of Focus will naturally want to get the kyanite that can match it, so they have this journey. Mollis explained. Then, this rabbit head monster, what's going on? This is information that Focus has not made public. When visiting Pluto at that time, some researchers thought that humans might be able to survive here and made it their second home in the future. It is precisely because of this. The spacecraft also took hundreds of animals of all kinds, put them in the sky, and began to stalk and observe. Mollis did not continue, but paused. Others obviously understood the meaning. Someone said, so, the surviving animals on this planet are also matched with extraordinary power? Is that so? That should be it. Mollis closed his eyes. Damn. That group of researchers actually came up with such a bad idea. They killed us. Someone yelled. But Mollis sighed. Actually, the starting points of those researchers are all good. Given the current situation of Focus, in 100 years, Green Star will fall into a population crisis and find the planet Pluto, which may become a second home. How can it be abandoned? It's just that no one expected that kyanite would have such a magical power. Recognize that everything has become so bad. Everyone was silent for a long time before someone hesitated and said, we are going back now. Really? We must die? You must die. Or do you have the guts to be the enemy of the entire Green Star? Think that your extraordinary power can defeat the Green League? Considering how to retreat, it is better to dug as much kyanite as possible, and then return to the Green Star is the truth. I understand. From now on, everyone will be divided into 2 groups. One group will guard the spaceship to prevent it from being destroyed by monsters, and the other will go out to explore. Of course, this is not permanent. It is an exchange system. As long as you find kyanite up to a limit of 10, you can return to the spacecraft, exchange with those guards, and extend your stay on the spacecraft based on the kyanite collected. There should be no problem, right? Mollis said. Everyone look at me, I look at you. And finally the bald head asked again. Then which group of people go out to collect kyanite first? Let's decide by throwing dice. The big one stays in the spaceship and the small one goes out. The crowd didn't make sense. They returned to the boat and started to throw dice. A group of people frantically folded their hands in prayer before starting. Cast a big crazy laugh. Cast a small face with constipation. Silent deliberately controlled the dice to throw 2 points. A group of constipated guys gathered together, and the atmosphere was extremely negative. The ghost knows how many people will be killed or injured when going out to gather kyanite. After all, those monsters are so powerful. The previous rabbit monsters and the dead men in the defense division actually belonged to the most superior echelon, even if their strength was placed in the entire extraordinary close to 20 people. The least powerful being in the top 3. Precisely because of this group of talents will be so desperate. This is just a monster that randomly encounters. Still the harmless little rabbit that Green Star used to be. If you encounter other wolves, leopards, tigers, and other fierce beasts, is there a reason to survive? It makes people desperate to think about it. The dice thrown by the leader was 5 points and stayed on the spaceship. To be honest, he breathed a sigh of relief. But seeing the lack of fighting spirit of these guys who were about to go out to collect, he frowned. He clearly knows the collection indicators given to them by the senior leaders of Green Star. If the task is not completed, everyone may be finished. Naturally, these people cannot be allowed to be so negative. He encouraged him. You don't have to be so negative. The entire sky Pluto is so big that it is not inferior to the Green Star. There are only hundreds of animals. It was just bad luck to meet one just now. Next, it will be difficult for you to meet monsters. What's so scary about this? Part 2. Even if you encounter it, it is absolutely impossible that each one will be as powerful as the previous one. After hearing this, everyone's mood slightly improved. But still shrugging, one by one slowly left the spaceship like a death squad. Xylem slowly followed everyone behind, without any fear at all. The man who was with it before also cast a small unlucky one. At this time, his face was full of despair, and he had been mumbling to death, dead. Again, he turned around nervously to see if there were any monsters around. Suddenly, when he saw Shillong with a laid-back look, he was a little excited and said, You hapless? Why are you still so relaxed now? We can die at any time. You guy, don't you be afraid of death? Everyone also looked at Shillong. This guy seemed to be too calm. Even in the security division, some of them's focuses transcendents who knew the situation were far less calm than Shillong. Huh. Xylem raised an eyebrow. Have these hapless people finally noticed me as an outsider? You fellow, isn't it okay to stay in Green Star? It was extremely stupid to get on the spaceship secretly. Obviously Green Star did not register and found your information, but sent it to the door to find death. You guys shouldn't regret it to die. Are you scared to death? Why can you be so calm? The person in the same bedroom looked at Shillong's expression. It was really hard to understand, and his mentality was about to collapse. Oh, don't make a mistake. Xylem shook his head. You may die, but I will not die. Are you so confident in your own strength? Do you think you are much better than the rabbit monster? Asked the sleeping man. Yes. Crazy man. You are simply a lunatic. The sleeping person covered his head and shook his head repeatedly. He didn't believe Shillong's words at all, and at this time he had determined that Shillong was a neurosis. The others also shook their heads and their hearts, ignoring Shillong, and the group walked cautiously. Sky Pluto, the whole is gray deserts, gray rocks, and gray mountains, but there are also a few green plants inside. A group of people has been walking on the rocks. Because kyanite grows on gray stones. Every time a gray stone area is reached, everyone will carefully search for it. Kyanite is a rare material. When passing through an area of gray stone, everyone collected 2 pieces, which made everyone somewhat happy. After all, they collected 2 kyanite without encountering a monster. Maybe you won't encounter monsters and can collect $10? That Mollis, is there a reliable day? It took more than an hour for everyone to find a total of 5 kyanite. Just when they were about to head to another graystone area in the distance, there was a slight abnormal noise under the feet of a soldier. There was a sound of breaking through the air, and the soldier uttered a painful cry. Everyone gathered their gazes and saw a 1-meter-long scorpion with a pointed tail, which seemed to have just been pulled out of the soldier at the moment when everyone looked at it. The scorpion's tail extending from the ground instantly retracted into the ground. Suddenly, the soldier who was stabbed by the scorpion tail covered his chest and hissed. The whole person also fell to the ground and struggled. A soldier next to him who might be familiar with him yelled and wanted to go over and lift up the soldiers on the ground. But immediately, the soldier's footsteps stopped, even a few steps back in horror, because he saw a terrifying scene. The soldier who fell to the ground struggling, his veins violent. It looks like a worm is squirming under the blood vessels, running around the whole body of the soldier. For a while, his arms, his thighs, his lower abdomen, his heart, and finally he ran straight towards the brain. Until this time, the fallen soldier's body trembled, and a large amount of foam was spit out from his mouth. It took a while to calm down. The rolled eyes returned to the middle of the eye socket. However, the originally blue eyes were covered with bloodshot eyes, and the entire eyeball seemed to pop out of the eye sockets. His head was also swollen by a few points and looked terrifying. Oh! The monster that looked like a dead body roared, and actually rushed to the side of the original companion at a very fast speed. This speed is absolutely far beyond ordinary humans. The dead monster Wuxia World Online broke the limit of mankind, but the person who was attacked made a horrified cry instinctively, and the machine gun in his hand banged on the dead body. But this does not seem to work. The dead body's pounce did not stop at all, and it was about to fall. While defending the branch, a short-haired male figure flashed and appeared on the side of the dead body, punching the dead body on the side of the waist. With a loud bang, the dead body he hit the ground several times before it landed. Thank you for saving me. The soldier escaped from the dead and gasped heavily after thanking the short-haired man. We are now companions of life and death. This is what I should do. The short-haired man replied. His eyes were fixed on the figure that was knocked into the distance. Chapter 334. The bones on the waist of the dead soldier had been completely interrupted. Now he stood up swayingly again, rushing towards them with a very strange posture. Damn it! Is this monster immortal now? The body has been bent 90 degrees, so it is still so energetic. A security department cursed. Slap him on the head. It should be possible to kill him. Xylem suddenly said while watching the play. The dead body is getting closer, and the man who shot before also instinctively punched the opponent's head. It's like a watermelon being blown up, with white and black splashes everywhere. A monster that looked like a worm holding a face suddenly burst out of it, pounced towards the short-haired man. But before he got close, he was punched again by the short-haired man. Ah! A scream came from behind him again. Everyone turned around and looked at it. Another soldier was stung by the long tail before. Help! Help! I don't want to die. Help! The soldier also thought of something and called for help. Under his veins, the monster is swimming. Damn thing! The short-haired man who shot before yelled, his eyes spitting fire. When he saw the monster wandering to the soldier's arm, he made a bold move. Hit the soldier's hand directly. With a weird cry from Jika, the monster inside and the soldier's arm were blown up together. The soldier fainted with a scream. Be careful, everyone. Form a circle. The short-haired man shouted, because everyone was willing to listen to him the previous few shots. The crowd formed a circle directly. One is everywhere, staring at each other. Everyone stared at their feet attentively, trying to see the monster in ambush. Pounce, there was a slight abnormal noise. The short-haired man's gaze flickered. His body sprang out like lightning, and he came behind one person, punching fiercely and hitting the abnormal ground fiercely. Boom! The powerful force of the short-haired man directly smashed a pit nearly 1 meter in diameter on the ground. A strange cry rang, but it disappeared immediately. Some dark green liquid appeared on the gravel in the pit. This should be the blood of the monster in the field before. Damn it! It ran away. The short-haired man scolded. Return to the team again and wait again. But 10 minutes later, it was quiet here. Except for the occasional wind and the suppressed breathing of everyone, there was nothing. Damn! That monster. It didn't appear. One hit didn't kill. It hid. The short-haired man was extremely depressed. This kind of monster will be killed in one blow. Otherwise, hiding in the dark will cause endless troubles. Others also understood the meaning of short-haired men, and all of them didn't look good. Let's go. Gathering kyanite cannot be delayed. The longer we stay outside, the more dangerous it will become. We don't have time and the monsters in the ground to waste. An extraordinary person with the same short hair and thin body in the security division said. The others took a deep breath and walked forward in silence. The one who fainted was directly awakened roughly, and after a simple bandage, he moved on. However, before walking for a few minutes, someone screamed again. The monster attacked humans again. This human being is not so lucky anymore. After the monster inside enters the body, it rushes straight into the forehead. There is no way for a short-haired man to destroy a soldier's limbs and kill the strange bug. I can only watch the other party directly penetrate into the soldier's brain, and then blow it out. While killing the monster, he killed his companion. The atmosphere of the team was so suppressed that many people were afraid to move around. 10 minutes later, the nerves of the people and others were about to collapse. There was a strange noise from the ground, but at this time, even those transcendents were already waiting, extremely anxious, mentally exhausted, and couldn't attack the monsters in the ground at the first time. Seeing that the long tail turned into a death thorn again and stab a soldier, a man beside the soldier suddenly stretched out his hand, grabbed the long tail instantly, and then pulled it. Jakar! With a neigh, the rubble flew everywhere. A scorpion monster half the size of a human was pulled out. Jakar! Jakar! The monster struggled, but it was useless in the hands of the man. Then, under everyone's horrified eyes, the man directly brought the monster to his mouth and bit it down. Jakar! The monster howled miserably, the dark green blood spurted out, and the man's mouth made a noise. Obviously this blood is very corrosive. But this man didn't care at all. 1 mouthful, 2 mouthfuls, 3 mouthfuls. Suddenly afterwards, he looked at the scorpion monster in his hand with some surprise. Then he glanced at everyone around him and said to himself, I was fascinated just now. Actually treat this scorpion as a devil. Alas, but this taste is a bit sour. Forget it. It's not impossible to eat. This person is naturally Xylem. He has been with this group of people just now, not only to see the strength of the others here. He is observing the entire planet with his eyes and exploring the mysteries of this planet. Because the person the monster attacked was too close to him, he was caught by his conditioned reflex and instinctively acted as the devil, gnawing a few mouthfuls. It's the too cool pot that the devil world eats before. Shillong didn't eat much. He sighed in his heart, but his mouth was not slow, and he ate the helpless, terrifying monster in a few mouthfuls. A group of people looked at him in amazement. This monster is very poisonous at first glance. How does this guy eat so refreshingly? And the monster's lightning-fast stabbing just now, and the huge struggle after being caught, all show how powerful the monster is. But such a monster has now entered this guy's belly. You guy. What is the ability? Actually so strong? So perverted? The person who slept with Shillong couldn't help asking. Xylem didn't answer his question, just smiled and headed in another direction alone, which was a different route than the team was preparing to advance. Xylem felt that there was no need to be with this group of people. He had already found his goal. Hey, you were talking. Are you really not afraid of it? Don't regret at all that you sneaked into the spacecraft and came here? The bedmate hurriedly ran up to Zero and asked after stopping. But Shillong didn't pay any attention at all, just bypassing the opponent and moving on. Hey, why are you ignoring me? Answer me. The sleeping person walked around again, but then he found that he could never stop Shillong. An invisible force pushed him to the sides. The two of them went further and further. The others behind him looked at each other. What to do? Change the route to follow? Someone asked the short-haired man. The short-haired man took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, Keep up. Our goals are the same. All for kyanite. Which path is the same? With that, he immediately followed. Shillong had already proved his strength when he shot just now. The team can't disperse the combat power in such a dangerous place. The group followed Shillong for more than an hour. On the way, I also encountered a few monsters that looked like fleas. These fleas were not strong, and they were shot dead by bullets as soon as they appeared. I even encountered a few flaming foxes, able to spit out violent fires and burn ordinary people to death by hundreds of meters. The speed is also extremely fast. Under the surprise attack, several soldiers were directly sprayed to death. In the fierce battle, a weak soldier of the security division was sprayed to death on the spot. Finally, it was resolved reasonably. Well, Shillong only shot and killed a flame fox that was close to him. The frequency of encountering monsters is much higher than what Mollis said before. Everyone guessed that it may be because the monsters sent before are of the same kind and breed offspring. Along the way, many greystone areas appeared on both sides of the way, but Shillong didn't even look at it and walked straight. Part 2. This made the people following him very anxious, afraid of going on and encountering any monsters. For this, they wanted to change Shillong's course, but Shillong ignored it. As a result, the contradiction almost broke out. A group of people were a little confused and stayed in place for a while. Some people suggested to team up to explore and ignore Shillong, who was indifferent to his companions. But in the end, he continued to follow Shillong. It took another 10 minutes to finally enter a greystone area. I don't know why the greystone here. Most of them are accompanied by kyanite. Take a closer look. The blue light is shining. At least hundreds of giants. A group of people immediately shouted in excitement. The spar here can simply fill everyone's boxes. According to the requirements, after they returned to the spaceship, they definitely did not need to go out again to look for kyanite. You can lie comfortably in the spaceship until you return home. Some people were so excited that they shed tears. Although they have only been on this planet for 2 hours, they are under tremendous pressure. The guy who slept in even walked to Shillong, slapped him on the shoulder and laughed. Brother, you are a lucky star. I didn't expect it to be so powerful. I found so many in one search. As long as we return safely now, everything is over. Others also praised it. Oh, brother, what's your name? I lived with you for several days, and we didn't know each other's names. What a rude. My name is Taishi. What about you, the humanity of the same bed? Shillong. Shillong, hee. I remember. You are my lucky star. Brother Shillong. Taishi was excited at this time, and gave Shillong a hug with extreme enthusiasm. On Shillong's face, there was always a weird smile. He silently watched these humans dig out the aquamarine from the gray stone piece by piece, and then carefully put it into the storage box, with excited smiles on their faces. Until everyone filled their suitcases, the people here stood up again. But when they turned to look at Shillong, it was discovered that their lucky star, Zero, hadn't dug the kyanite at all, but looked at them weirdly. Seeing him stretch out his hand, everyone just felt a sudden force on the suitcase. Before they squeezed, they flew in front of each other one by one. Shillong, what are you doing? The short-haired man asked anxiously. The others frowned and looked at him. Thank you for your hard work, but I found these, so these are my things and have nothing to do with you. You, what do you mean by that? Is this kyanite yours or ours? What's the difference? In the end, aren't they all given to the senior's focus? The short-haired man frowned and asked. No, of course there is a difference. Shillong smiled, then opened his mouth. In the suitcases that opened automatically, a piece of kyanite flew directly into his mouth. His mouth is like a bottomless pit, swallowing everything. What are you doing? You actually ate the kyanite? Everyone was dumbfounded. If it hadn't been for the greystones around, they would have been tempted to attack Shillong, until all the kyanite flew into Shillong's mouth. He looked at these people and said, and the remaining kyanite here is mine. Even the kyanite on the entire planet is mine. It has nothing to do with you. You guy, is your brain broken? Think that there is a bit of extraordinary power and the world is invincible? Just go back to Green Star. The people of Nsfocus can definitely take you down instantly. Or do you think personal strength can compete with Nsfocus? The short-haired man asked. He thought Shillong was the kind of brain-dead child who possessed extraordinary powers and thought he was invincible. Green Star Nsfocus, you will soon surrender under my command? It turned into a puzzle in the endless plain of my dragon empire. Xylem spread his arms. Madman, you are such a madman. What endless empire, what endless plain? You guy, is there a problem with your brain as expected? Someone was anxious. Shillong smiled slightly, not angry, and waved his hand, and the remaining kyanite began to shake, slowly separating pieces from the gray stone. Then he started flying towards Shillong's open mouth. You bastard! Shut up. You continue to eat. We can't even return the spaceship. You guy, how long do you want to stay in this dangerous place? Someone is going crazy. But Shillong still ignored him. Seeing that something was wrong, the short-haired man rushed towards Shillong, trying to stop it. But when he was just close to 10 meters away, an invisible force appeared and threw him away. Damn, what kind of weird ability is this? Everyone quickly stop him. The short-haired man shouted. Other extraordinary people heard that Wuxia World, online all shot. One by one rushed to Shillong, but all of them were useless, and no one could break through the resistance of invisible forces. Seeing that the kyanite is getting less and less, everyone was anxiously red-eyed. The Transcendents used the strongest attack to madly attack the invisible wall in front of them. Even the soldiers pulled the trigger. The bullets banged on the invisible with the firelight, and finally bounced out. Everyone was terrified, and they couldn't imagine that there would be such a strong guy among human beings. They watched all the kyanite being sucked into Shillong's mouth, and finally they were desperate. Asshole, 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 asshole. Why on earth do you want to do this? Why should everyone die with you? Woo 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 woo. A transcendent person in the security division, who seems to be no more than 20, fell on his knees in despair and started crying. Chapter 335, Woo 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 Dad. Mom, I miss you. I want to return to Green Star and see you. I want to go home. What extraordinary power. What NSFOC heroes. I don't want it anymore. Lunatic. Damn lunatic. We are all killed by you. This person was crying miserably, like a little angry man. Other people were affected, and they couldn't help crying. There is also a girlishly dressed person pointing at Shillong, crying, You bully. Xylem felt that he was a little confused. Because they weren't under his men, it didn't make sense to watch these people die before. But now it makes him a little embarrassed. Sighed. Shillong casually portrayed the plane portal. A group of people saw him portraying strangely in the void, and they didn't know what they were doing. Can't beat, and feel dangerous to be separated. So embarrassing. Until a strange light lit up. A pitch-black ellipse stood in the void like a black hole. A monster with a lion-faced human body emerged from it. After all the Green Star people saw it, they were instinctively vigilant and just wanted to attack. I saw this monster bowing to Xylem next to him. May the glory of your majesty shine on the world of endless plains. Yeah. Xylem nodded. Everyone was stunned. They then saw the lion-faced human monster consciously walk to the side. Behind the oval shaped like a black hole in the door, one after another, monsters appeared continuously. Is like endless. Everyone feels scalp tingling. The key is, Shillong Soderbergh, who appeared on the spaceship halfway, seems to know these monsters. The problem involved behind this. It's even more frightening. Shillong Soderbergh, you fellow, who thee is? Why do you mix with these murderous monsters? Why do they call you your majesty? The short-haired man clenched his fists, the blue veins on his hands burst, and his heart was very restless. I'm Shillong Soderbergh, the Dragon God Emperor of the Dragon Empire. Shillong smiled. Now I am here to invite you to join my empire. At this point, you don't need to return to the Green Star or die. The Dragon Empire will protect your safety. Dragon Empire? I think it is a monster empire, right? Join the kingdom of monsters like you. Don't laugh. You are just the pets that we Green Star people keep on the planet Pluto. Even with the ability to deform, even if you get the evolution of life, it can't change the fact that you are our Green Star pets. Want our great human beings to submit to our pets? Don't even think about it, shouted a soldier. Huh. Silo heard the words. His face was at a loss for a moment, but immediately, he figured it out. I got news from the leader named Malus before. The monsters on this planet are all evolved from the creatures they stalked. These guys should regard him and the demonized people as those stalked creatures. These Green Star people. Really think about it. Shillong was a little helpless. Your imagination is quite rich, and we have nothing to do with your pets. We are beings from other planes, do you understand? As a technology plane, you should not understand this, right? At the end, his expression darkened a little, and a terrifying spiritual coercion struck humanity. This shocked everyone. Choose. Is it to surrender to the great dragon empire and continue to live, or die here, become a sad bone that no one cares about? Shillong said. Surrender? Do you want us to be a green trader? This is absolutely impossible. Although I hate the senior leaders of the Green League, but we will never betray our planet. The extraordinary man with short hair looked solemn and replied immediately. Selfish guy. I am not afraid of death, so do I ask others to die with you? Look at the other people around you. They are not as brave as you. Silo laughed. What? The short-haired transcendent frowned. He glanced at the other people around him. The vast majority of the soldiers were determined to die, but there were still a very small number of people in the defense division with a hesitant expression. You guys, do you really want to be a green trader? That's going to be stinking for thousands of years. Look at what these monsters look like. Except for Silent Soderbergh. All the others are monsters. Ha ha ha. Maybe Shillong Sudberg is also a monster, just disguised as a human. You want to live in the same world with this monster from now on? I might be eaten as meat buns in the future. Don't blame me for not reminding you. The short-haired man laughed angrily and said something frightening. We? The hesitant person hesitated even more. Chivalrous fellow. Silem frowned. How can a mortal like you understand the greatness of the Dragon Empire? There are not only radiant evolved people there, but also pure humans like you. There are also orcs, elves, dwarves, and I don't know where. They all live happily in my empire. I, Silent Soderbergh, am not a devil. I wasted so much precious time in order to persuade you ordinary human beings to surrender. Doesn't this show my friendliness? What's the kidding? Anyway, we will never be a green trader. The short-haired man shouted again. Silem frowned, really impatient, and stretched out 3 fingers and said, My patience is limited. Now I count down 3 times. I am willing to surrender and come directly to me. If I don't want it, I don't mind slapped to death. 3. As soon as Shillong said this, all the green stars' complexions changed drastically, and some people who had hesitated even sweated anxiously. 2. The hesitant green star took a left and right, as if to see if there was a leader. 1. With this sound falling, the hesitant green star saw Shillong's gradually getting cold eyes and the hundreds of monsters behind him. Someone suddenly roared, unable to bear the pressure, and rushed forward frantically. I surrender. I am willing to surrender. Just let me live. I am willing to do anything. As soon as this person came out, the others who were still hesitating also yelled and rushed out frantically. Damn, you traitors. The short-haired man burst into flames as he looked behind him. Everyone will do it. Kill the traitor first. The short-haired man screamed, but in the next moment, a terrifying gravity fell instantly, and those who were not running were instantly overwhelmed to the ground. The soldiers didn't even make a scream. They were directly crushed into flesh. Several stronger transcendent screams, their bodies directly embedded in the earth. Never mind if you are stubborn, you still want to stop other people? Shillong's indifferent voice sounded, cold and merciless. Should, dead, traitors, you guys, not, to die. The short-haired man said difficultly. His internal organs were broken, and he was dead. He stared at the traitors who had surrendered. And the traitors also turned around when they found an abnormality behind them. But when he sees the hateful eyes of the short-haired man, the back of his neck feels cold. But the next moment, they saw the ground next to the short-haired man shook again, and several extraordinary men who hadn't died instantly. The entire radius was 100 meters, and it was quiet instantly. Only the rustle of footsteps rang softly. Happiness. The betrayal felt that their shoulders were lightly slapped. When they turned around, they found the Dragon God Emperor standing behind them. Think of the opponent raising their hands to kill dozens of people, and several extraordinary people feel their backs slowly soaking. They knelt to the ground at once, and a clever one even learned the words of the lion-faced man before shouting. May the glory of your majesty shine on the endless plain and the world. Shillong faintly replied. Get up, my dragon empire can't kneel down, and you don't need to be so afraid of me. Don't look at my previous companions who just killed you. It seems a bit bloody, but in fact I am a very good talking god. Of course, this is strictly for my people. To the enemy, I have always been merciless. All right, people of the Dragon Empire, stand up. In the future, you will definitely be thankful for today's decision. Silo patted a few betrayers on the shoulders again very kindly. However, these people are trembling violently, but somehow they stand up. Part 2. Shillong's eyes looked back, and he glanced at the army of at least 500 or 600 demonized people behind him. It directly interrupted the magic power supply of the portal. Then he pointed to the direction of the focus spaceship in the distance and said, All of you, go to that direction first and grab the enemy's spaceship for me. Accept those who are willing to surrender, and kill those who don't. I will be back later. The demonized people listened to the order and responded, and then set off for the destination. Naturally, Several newly joined Green Star people were among them. Shillong was only alone at this time. He began to move forward quickly. Whenever he reached a greystone area, he would stop for a while to collect the kyanite inside. These kyanites are actually not very useful for him, but he can be used to improve the strength of his subordinates. This method of improvement is different from demonization. Shillong felt that it was necessary for the Imperial research team to study it. Whether it is helping ordinary people or demonizing people to increase their strength, it is a very good result. After all, he wants to find a way home in the future. It is impossible for him to slowly conquer the infinite dimension by himself. The subordinates are the most important thing. After all, if the subordinates are strong, the efficiency of conquering will definitely increase. As long as he has thousands, tens of thousands of demigods, and hundreds of billions, trillions of soldiers, he can surrender several planes in one day. This can greatly increase the possibility of encountering the main material plane. It took a while and stopped all the way. He quickly came to a huge pit. This pit is circular, and the diameter of Shillong is definitely about 10 kilometers. Around there are large slabs of kyanite every some distance around the pit, which is particularly conspicuous under the sun. Even inside the pothole, kyanite is everywhere. Obviously, this is the source of kyanite. The cave is extremely deep, and if a mortal looks at it, it is absolutely impossible to see to the bottom. But with Aziran's eyesight, he could see a black ball that didn't slip away thousands of kilometers away. It seemed to be the nucleus of the entire planet. In the middle part, there are actually two monsters entirely composed of kyanite entrenched. One looks like a tiger, 6 or 7 meters long, and a long snake, 2 or 3 times as long as a tiger. They seem to be able to float in the air. The tiger is leaning sideways and eating kyanite leisurely on the wall full of kyanite, while the snake seems to be resting with its eyes closed. Xylem flew straight down the pothole, sucking all the kyanite into his mouth. Inside his body, the independent storage space is actually filled with space rings. The capacity is extremely wide, and the entire cave can be filled with thousands of kyanite. In this way, all the way down, until I came to the aquamarine tiger and the aquamarine snake. The kyanite tiger, who was still eating the kyanite leisurely, looked at the large swaths of kyanite flying towards Shillong's mouth, and instantly became furious, and it roared in anger. The powerful sound wave shook down a large piece of kyanite, and the aquamarine snake, who closed its eyes, opened its eyes. The two monsters rushed towards Shillong in a tacit understanding, and Zero also used a powerful repulsion force to counterattack in an instant, blocking the two giant beasts, but the repulsion force couldn't blow the two giant beasts into flight. For a time, the two sides actually froze in place. Siren frowned slightly. These two monsters are not weak in strength. They definitely have a demigod level. He quickly turned into the form of a dragon, with a little strength, and with a roar, two giant beasts were blasted into the aquamarine walls on both sides. But soon, they flew out of the hollow wall and shook their heads. Except for the mess on their body, they didn't seem to suffer much damage. Wow. Wow. Zero did not rush to attack at this time. He used a magical voice that could communicate with animals to issue commands to the two monsters to submit to him. But after the two monsters were commanded, the irritation in their eyes became stronger. The blue crystal tiger kicked its hind legs, turned into a blue light, and rushed toward Shillong. The blue crystal snake opened its huge mouth Wuxia-world.online and spit out a blue beam of light. Zero's body flashed back, but he instantly avoided the shot of the beam of light and the attack of the aquamarine tiger. The eyes that looked at the two monsters also gradually became colder. Although the strength is strong, the wisdom is not much different from the ordinary beasts. It seems that there is no need to subdue it. This kind of beast with the strength of the demigod, even if it is subdued, if it is not watched by him, it is not good to go crazy, it is better not to. Shillong, who has no interest in the two monsters, has no plans to play with the two monsters. He quickly showed his huge body that was extremely exaggerated. Two monsters that were originally huge have instantly become small beasts at the level of a small milk cat. The terrifying aura was raging crazily, and Shillong didn't mean to constrain it all this time. The heavens and the earth are discolored. Above the planet, the atmosphere began to agitate within 100 kilometers. Except for the breeze, the calm sky suddenly resembled a stormy sea. The clouds are heavy. The sky was dark as midnight. The squally wind roars like the scream of a ghost. Lightning raged between the clouds. The roar resounded across the sky.
Thanks for watching. You can find the next videos in the playlist linked in the info card or directly on my channel. And as always, if you have any feedback, feel free to share it in the comments too.